But we are about to go into a deep freeze.
Something I want you to know and prepare for next week is that between Sunday and Tuesday, we may have 48 consecutive hours with temperatures below freezing.
WSB meteorologist Christina Edwards says there will be dangerous wind chills as well and likely freezing pipe damage. We'll have Atlanta Radio's only 5-day forecast coming up at 12:05. Well, because of the dangerous cold temperatures predicted on Monday, President-elect Trump's inauguration is expected to be moved indoors. Plans are underway right now to have Trump and Vice President-elect J.D. Vance sworn in inside the U.S. Capitol Rotunda. Now, discussions are ongoing about where to hold the inaugural parade and other celebrations. Some festivities may move to the Capital One Arena. There are also talks on how to handle the tens of thousands of people who are expected to travel to the National Mall to witness Trump being sworn in. We will have live coverage of the inauguration Monday starting at 11:30 right here on 95.5 WSB. The legal team defending Donald Trump against election racketeering charges in Fulton County files a response to the DA's effort to rejoin the case.
The Donald Trump defense team urges the Georgia Supreme Court not to consider the appeal by Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis over her removal from Trump's election meddling case. Attorney Steve Sadow's motion says the 2-1 vote by the Court of Appeals was right to decide that it isn't enough to boot just the DA or the special prosecutor who was her former lover from the case. Sadow says the appearance of impropriety there was not nebulous. It was based on actual conduct. Veronica Waters, 95.5 WSB.
This is new here at noon. The family of a man found dead several months ago inside a trailer at a Conyers mattress facility has filed a lawsuit claiming negligence.
Jasmine Jennings claims her fiancé, 38-year-old Joshua Armour, suffered from a mental health crisis in October, went to the Temper Sealy facility, and was locked inside a trailer by employees. He was found dead days later.
I just want answers so I can get justice for Josh and my family.
She says the family tracked him to the facility, but employees wouldn't search for him.
A lot we still need to learn. That's what we will learn in this lawsuit.
Attorney Mark Johnson says the suit names Sealy and seeks monetary damages. Austin Eller, 95.5 WSB.
And we have reached out to Temper Sealy for a comment, but have not heard back yet. A new bill under the Gold Dome aims to make schools safer with technology.
The bill known as Ricky and Alyssa's Law would mandate that public schools install mobile panic systems linked to first responders like were used at Appalachian High School.
I mean, this is a no-brainer.
Republican State Senator Jason Anabatarte is the sponsor of the bill, which honors Coach Ricky Aspinwall, who was killed at Appalachia.
We have to, I think, put our best foot forward and make those investments. And I think doing nothing is unacceptable.
Governor Kemp's budget proposal includes $50 million in grants for schools to improve security measures. From the state capitol, Jonathan O'Brien, 95.5 WSB.
An attempted car break-in ends with a victim dead after an apparent heart attack in southwest Atlanta. It happened this morning on King George Lane. Police say the homeowner confronted the suspect, who pulled out a gun and fired at him but missed. The victim collapsed in the doorway of the home, was pronounced dead at the scene. Police searching this afternoon for the suspect. American Express hit with a massive fine for what it's accused of doing to small businesses. Dave Packer has more.
American Express has agreed to a $230 million settlement over allegations of deceptive practices targeting small businesses. The Justice Department accused the company of falsifying records, misrepresenting credit rewards, and misleading customers about tax benefits. Amex says it addressed those issues years ago.
American Express denied any wrongdoing. And the Atlanta-based CDC is calling for quicker testing for bird flu in humans. The agency issuing new guidance asking labs around the nation to try and determine within 24 hours whether a person in the hospital has seasonal flu or bird flu. Some hospitals send tests out in bulk every few days. There has been an outbreak of bird flu among dairy cow and poultry. The threat of bird flu in humans is still low unless you are dealing closely with cattle, poultry, or wild birds. As we take a look at the markets, the Dow right now is up 434 at 43,587. So the Dow's up more than 1%. Nasdaq's up more than 1.5%, and the S&P is up more than 1%. Let's get a look at the road. Alex Williams in the WSB 24-hour traffic center.
Watching delays on 285 east and southbound, the inner loop out of Doraville through Spaghetti Junction, the I-85 interchange down to a crash that's trying to move off to the right. 285 southbound, the inner loop before North Lake Parkway, exit number 36. That's also causing I-85 south to slow, trying to ramp onto 285 south. Elsewhere, Peachtree Road is not pretty this afternoon between Midtown and Buckhead. Construction blocking the right lane. Peachtree Road northbound, just north of Collier Road. Might want to think about using Northside Drive as an alternate. And got that water main break repair shutting down Monroe Drive near Piedmont right in front of Ansley Mall, so use your alternates there. Alex Williams, 95.5 WSB.
It's time now for Atlanta Radio's only 5-day forecast, sponsored by Shoemate, the official heating of winter. Here's Christina Edwards.
Sunny skies today, warming up to a high of 56. Clouds rolling in for tonight. An isolated rain shower possible couple before midnight, but the bulk of the rain will be here early tomorrow morning with lows in the mid-40s. A few hit-or-miss rain showers for tomorrow afternoon, high 55. As much as half an inch to 1 inch of rainfall now expected through Saturday evening. The rain will be out in time for the Arctic air to move in on Sunday. Daytime high 45, but wind chills will be in the 30s as temperatures continue to step downwards Sunday afternoon, dropping all the way down into the upper teens for Monday morning. Monday afternoon, mostly sunny and freezing cold with a high near 30. Tuesday, morning low 20, afternoon high 32. Wednesday and Thursday of next week, morning lows in the upper teens, daytime highs in the mid-30s.
More news at 12:30. Breaking news when it happens. I'm Sabrina Cupid, 95.5 WSB.
Okay, friends, it's the 5K a day bonus blitz. The noon keyword is GLAD. G-L-A-D, GLAD. Enter the keyword GLAD to the WSB Radio app or at WSBradio.com/cash. You have until 12:30 p.m. to enter the keyword. Win $1,000. Keyword is GLAD, G-L-A-D. Don't forget, if you get a phone call after 12:30 from a number you don't recognize, answer it. Could be us telling you won $1,000. Keyword is GLAD. Good luck.
The agenda that I otherwise wouldn't talk about. You can also text Eric, E-R-I-C-K, to 33777 to get the show notes, the live stream, the podcast. Follow me around social media. I'll be doing lots of cooking this weekend. My sister and brother-in-law have come to visit, so you'll see all that on Instagram. E.W. Erickson at Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, you name it, everywhere, E.W. Erickson. It's pretty ubiquitous. Now, we got a series of things, breaking news that I need to hit out of the gate. First breaking news is that the inauguration of Donald Trump is moving indoors. It's expected to be very frigid temperatures in 1985. So let me actually back up. So in 1981, January 20th of 1981, Ronald Reagan moved the inauguration from the east side of the United States Capitol to the west side. I'm always a little bit flummoxed that it was ever on the east side, but by tradition, the presidential inauguration would be on the east side of the Capitol, and so people would go down the street all the way down to where RFK Stadium was eventually built. In 1981, Ronald Reagan moved it to the west side. He was from California, and he thought going down the mall looking towards the west, towards California, was perfect, and that's what he wanted to do. And the presidential inaugurations ever since have been on the west side of the Capitol, running down towards Lincoln Memorial. And when you look at it, you kind of wonder, why the heck did they never do this before Reagan? And they didn't. It required a lot more staging and effort to make that happen, but it happened. But in 1985, a blizzard blew through Washington, D.C. There was massive snow and subarctic temperatures, and so they had to move it inside underneath the dome of the Capitol. And for the first time since Reagan's second inaugural, Donald Trump's second inaugural, some of you will find metaphor there and simile and symmetry. The Donald Trump's inauguration will be held under the Capitol dome inside in the warmth of the Capitol. He himself released a statement a short time ago saying he has ordered this due to the conditions. The high is expected to be 20 degrees with a low of 6 degrees, and with wind chill, it's expected to be negative temperature feeling, even with the high of 20 degrees. So just too cold. That's also probably going to cancel much of the presidential parade, which, frankly, I was honest to goodness. I hadn't said anything, but I've been a little bit concerned, just given all the attempts on his life. Having a march down Pennsylvania Avenue doesn't seem to be the best thing. Although there will be a semblance of a presidential parade. They're bringing the garbage truck. Remember, after Joe Biden called Trump supporters garbage, and the media's lame, half-hearted effort to claim he didn't really mean it, Donald Trump showed up in a garbage truck. It was actually, in politics, for a lot of Democratic strategists and Republican strategists, Donald Trump getting in that garbage truck was the moment they knew the race was over. How so? Because a campaign of a presidential stature nimble enough to be able to pivot to a garbage truck to respond to an event the night before from the President of the United States to get that garbage truck showed the presidential campaign of Donald Trump was firing on all cylinders in a way Kamala Harris's campaign was not. And in a close race, which it was, it showed that he had the advantage because he was more nimble, that garbage truck, and it's going to be in the presidential parade. So Trump's inauguration will be inside. They will have venues available for people to go and watch on screens. He's encouraging people to be home watching it on television to stay out of the cold. Nancy Pelosi is saying she will not be there. Michelle Obama will not be there. There are rumors circulating. The Obamas may not be long for the world as a couple. She also refused to leave Hawaii for Jimmy Carter's funeral. The other breaking news is we have a Senate pick in Ohio. It won't actually be official until 1 o'clock this afternoon. But for those of you listening on WHIO in Dayton, Ohio, your Lieutenant Governor, John Husted, is going to be your next United States Senator. According to NBC News, Ohio Governor Mike DeWine at 1 p.m. today will announce the Lieutenant Governor will replace J.D. Vance. He will serve through to a special election next year, and where he will then continue on for 2 more years to finish out J.D. Vance's tenure. Vivek Ramaswamy had taken himself out of the running, changed his mind apparently last week, tried to get DeWine's attention, and DeWine had already settled on the lieutenant governor of Ohio, in large part because DeWine believes that with his name recognition and his political machine, he would be able to survive a messy primary should a Vivek Ramaswamy or someone else get in and try to challenge him, that he would be able to survive. So 1 p.m. today, it'll be official. Lieutenant Governor John Husted of Ohio will become the next United States Senator, according to multiple press outlets. Now, NBC leading the way. There's been no pushback from DeWine on this. Other breaking news that has been happening in the last hour, Joe Biden has commuted 2,500 nonviolent drug offenders. He's not pardoning them of their crime, but he's allowing them out of jail. Joe Biden now will go down in history as the president who commuted more sentences and pardoned more people than any other president, allowing a lot of criminals out of prison, back onto the streets, all while claiming a 50-year low in crime, when really the only reason that exists is because people stopped reporting crime to the FBI. Joe Biden also, which we will get into later, has declared that the Equal Rights Amendment is a part of the Constitution. Now, Joe Biden's Justice Department says this is not so. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, before she died, said it was not so. The National Archivist has said it is not so. But Joe Biden has declared it is. This is the unconstitutional power grab that progressives warned us Donald Trump would do, but it's Joe Biden doing it, declaring something to be in the Constitution that is not in the Constitution. Why? Because the Equal Rights Amendment passed out of Congress in the 1970s had a time limit. Most constitutional amendments, when they leave Congress, have a line that says this amendment must be ratified within 10 years or it's invalid. The Equal Rights Amendment had such a provision. It was not ratified within 10 years. Some states have added ratification to it, but others have revoked their ratification. Joe Biden saying this, it plays to the left in some way. There's some poor feminist out there in need of batteries, and this is the best he's got for her today, is to give her Equal Rights Amendment, claim that it's part of the Constitution, but it's been rejected. Even the National Archivist has said it is not part of the Constitution, and she will not, in any way, shape, or form, add it to the official text of the Constitution. That's the job of the National Archivist. And the National Archivist, a woman, says, I'm not doing this, and Joe Biden has no power to make me. And in his statement today, Joe Biden acknowledges he has no power to compel the National Archivist of the United States to recognize the Equal Rights Amendment as part of the Constitution, but for show purposes, for the feels of it, for the feels, he's saying it is. This is an assault on the Constitution, where you will now have progressives claiming that something exists in the Constitution that does not. Absolutely bizarre that he would do this. And by the way, you will note he waited until, he's got 3 days left, and he waited until today to do this big, brave move, Joe Biden. Corn Pop is quaking in his boots, Dr. Dementia. The other big news is that the United States Supreme Court has not only upheld the TikTok ban, but has done so unanimously. A per curiam decision that has no justice signed their name to it. There were two concurrences to the per curiam, that is Sonia Sotomayor and Neil Gorsuch. And both of them essentially said in their concurrences, we agree with where the court is going. We're concerned at how quickly we did it. There may be initial analyses in the future, and we're not sure this is the best or most constitutionally sound path, but for now, we're going with it. They were actually, Sonia Sotomayor, not a fan. She's not the brightest bulb, but her concurrence actually wasn't terrible. Neither was John Gorsuch's, that there is a difference between allowing the enemy to spy on us and say nice things about the enemy, and said this isn't a content issue, this is a control issue. And because it's a control issue, not a content issue, it doesn't run afoul of the First Amendment. It is legal for Congress to do. Now, here's the rub. Joe Biden, brave Joe Biden, who pushed for this legislation, now says, I'm not going to enforce it. This is wild. So January 19th, the day before Trump becomes president, TikTok is supposed to be shut down under this law. And Joe Biden says, I'm not going to enforce the law. Can you imagine if Donald Trump said he wasn't going to enforce the law, what the media would do, what the Democrats would do? But because it's Joe Biden and everybody's scared to death of China, Donald Trump doesn't even want to shut down TikTok. Hell, he's invited the CEO of ByteDance, the Chinese Communist Party company that controls it, to come to the inauguration. Both men are wrong. Donald Trump's original position was that we had to shut down TikTok because it's a nefarious spy application used by the Chinese. That Donald Trump was absolutely right. I have no idea why he changed his mind, other than two of the biggest donors to ByteDance are Republican donors to Trump's campaign. That seems to be the only reason he changed his mind. TikTok is a nefarious, dangerous spy application for the Chinese Communist Party. We have documented evidence that the Chinese use TikTok to spy on individuals, as well as indoctrinate our children into transgenderism and to anti-Semitism. It should be shut down. That neither president of the United States has the wherewithal to stand up to China on this is very disappointing. Side note, United States Supreme Court was able to take a very complicated legal argument just argued last week, distill it, decide it, and release a unanimous opinion in a week's time. That was coherent. I'm assuming John Roberts wrote it because, for all of John Roberts' faults, he's actually one of the best writers to have ever been on the Supreme Court. He writes in such a way that a common non-lawyer can read his decision and understand what he means. And that's how this reads, which means Roberts probably wrote it. And it is very easy to understand. For the last 4 years, because the Democrats do not control it, they have worked very hard to slander the Supreme Court of the United States. Democrats, progressive outside groups with help from the media, have worked very hard to degrade the United States Supreme Court as an institution, to smear the justices, to slander them, all because Democrats do not control the Supreme Court. And it continues to be the one competent American institution. It continues to do its work without show, without drama, without flash or flare, and it gets the job done, and it did so here. I think they're on the right side, but even if I thought they were on the wrong side, I would have to note they've done their job. They did the job they were asked to do without flare, flash, pomp, or circumstance. They just got it done. And the Democrats are trying to destroy people's trust in the United States Supreme Court because the left does not control the United States Supreme Court. And thus far this week, it has shown itself to be the only competent working part of the American federal government. TikTok should be shut down on January 19th. Governor DeWine will appoint Lieutenant Governor John Husted as the next United States Senator in about 40 minutes from now. Donald Trump has moved his inauguration inside on January 20th due to cold temperatures. And Joe Biden has, in addition to saying the Equal Rights Amendment is part of the U.S. Constitution, which it's not, has commuted the sentences of over 2,500 nonviolent drug offenders today, making him the president who has commuted or pardoned more sentences than any other president. All of that has happened in just the last hour. It's my pleasure to be able to bring you up to speed on that. When we come back, we'll get into all the other stuff that's happening today. There's so much out there, including, I gotta, by request, spend a little more time explaining to you the trap that's being set for the GOP on tax cuts.
Want to be on the show?
Hello? I'd love your show.
Call Eric now at 877-973-7425.
1221 Cool Ray Carrier, WSB 24-hour traffic center. Slow but improving 285 southbound, the inner loop into Cobb County, leaving I-85 Spaghetti Junction, where this crash is clearing before North Lake Parkway exit 36. Also seeing the brake lights again through Kennesaw with that rolling construction. It's in the right lane on the Jam Cam. 575 southbound between Bells Ferry and Barrett Parkway. And we're still doing with that construction. Peachtree Road northbound, just north of Collier, Piedmont Hospital area. That's in the right lane, jamming the ride out of Midtown. Alex Williams, 95.5 WSB.
Okay, friends, it's the 5K day bonus blitz. The noon keyword is GLAD, G-L-A-D, GLAD. Enter the keyword GLAD to the WSB Radio app or at WSBradio.com/cash. You have until 12:30 p.m. to enter the keyword, win $1,000. Keyword is GLAD, G-L-A-D. Don't forget, if you get a phone call after 12:30 from a number you don't recognize, answer it. Could be us telling you won $1,000. Keyword is GLAD. Good luck.
There she is, founder and CEO. High five.
Dave can't stop celebrating with every business owner in town.
All right, Baker Man. High five.
He's sharing the excitement of big savings with the Comcast Business 5-year price lock guarantee.
Woo. Up top, Bike Shop. Yeah.
It's 5 years of gig speed internet.
Quick, high five.
5 years of advanced security.
5 years.
And 5 years of a great rate that won't change.
Yeah, law partners. Chamberlain, Messethorpe, Dubois.
All from the company with 99.9% network reliability. Switch today and get the 5-year price lock guarantee.
5 years.
It's back, but only for a limited time.
Woo.
Powering 5 years of savings, powering possibilities. Comcast Business.
Can't forget you, voiceover guy.
Ah, thanks, Dave.
High five.
Ends 3/9/25. Guaranteed rate applies to monthly service charge for new customers on qualifying internet bundle, excluding taxes and fees. Other restrictions apply.
Dave Baker here. So you're leaving for work, but the garage door won't open. Is it the opener? Is the spring broken? Now you're late and your car is trapped. Don't panic. Overhead Door Company of Atlanta is here with same-day emergency service. They won't leave you stuck. Overhead Door Company of Atlanta is the original red ribbon garage door company, trusted in Atlanta since 1935. Call 404-USA-DOOR or schedule online at overheaddooratlanta.com.
My old mentor, Adrian Rogers, taught me this. He said, you are free to choose. You are not free not to choose. And you're not free to choose the consequences of your choices. Your choices choose those for you. I want you to hear that again. You are free to choose. You are not free not to choose. And you're not free to choose the consequences of your choices. Our lives and our eternities depend on our choices. This is Tom Gray, and This Stuff Matters.
ThisStuffMatters.net. Hey, Belinda here, and I have Barry Petrie, Director of Virtual Imaging. Barry has a very interesting testimonial to share with our listeners. Barry, tell us your story.
Well, Belinda, exactly a year ago when I took over my role, one of the first things I did was scan. And at the time, I was 54 years old, never had any issues, was in a good shape, worked out every day. And I was shocked to find out that I had a score of over 1,000 in my calcium. So, and most of that 1,000 was concentrated in my LAD, which you know is the widowmaker.
Not good.
So immediately started working with an interventional cardiologist, started working with a functional medicine specialist to try to correct that. And unfortunately, about 4 months ago, I started having symptoms and rescanned, and at this point my calcium score had gone from 1,000 to over 1,500, and that LAD score had gone up to over 1,000. So long story short, ended up going to Northside, getting a stent put into my LAD, and now today I feel great. I regained the gear that I didn't know that I had lost, and had I not taken this role as director of virtual imaging a year ago, I probably would have not known this, and I could have been one of those folks that looks perfectly healthy and drops dead.
Absolutely. Folks, that story hits home. What are you waiting for? Go to Virtual Imaging and get a complimentary heart scan for you and your spouse. Call 770-678-SCAN. That's 770-678-SCAN. Or visit virtualimagingatl.com. It could save your life.
Hey friends, it's Mark Aram here. Celebrate the new year with a resolution you can easily achieve. Regrow your own natural hair with the simple one-day hair loss solution from Advanced Hair Restoration. They have changed tens of thousands of lives. Advanced Hair even guarantees that your new hair will grow. Celebrate the new year with a free consultation, $250 off, and 250 free hair grafts. Find out if you qualify. Call 470-660-HAIR or visit advancedhair.com.
95.5 WSB, Atlanta's News and Talk. You may not agree with him, but he tells you the truth. It's the Eric Erickson Show.
Welcome back. It is Eric Erickson. The phone number is 877-973-7425. It's an open line Friday. I'll start taking your phone calls here in just a bit. This is a short segment because I ran long last segment covering all the breaking news, bringing you people up to speed. Progressive staffers on Capitol Hill are asking their bosses to give them a 32-hour work week. And I quote, "We write today to encourage you to consider adopting a proposal that would improve worker satisfaction, increase staff retention in Congress, and model a more sustainable approach to work on a national level." They've written it to Mike Johnson, John Thune, Hakeem Jeffries, and Chuck Schumer, the Congressional Progressive Staff Association. They leave themselves unsigned. It says the Congressional Progressive Staff Association was formed in 2021 to uplift the voices and experiences of progressive congressional staff across the country. Good grief. I first would like to say to Mike Johnson that you should reject it as an officially recognized congressional staff organization because they're a bunch of idiots. And second, I would like to tell you that anyone who believes this should probably be flogged and then fired. The idea that congressional staff should only work 32 hours a week is nonsense. And the idea that progressives think this is good for anybody is nonsense. And the fact of the matter is these people work for us. They are tax-paid-for employees, and they should be busting their butt. It should be a privilege to serve the United States Congress. And the fact that they think that they shouldn't have to serve the way they serve, many of them don't even want to work in the office right now. Fire them all. What a bunch of ungrateful little babies. No work ethic at all. That's part of the problem with young progressives these days. No work ethic. Now, I got to tell you about Americans for Prosperity. By the way, breaking news, CNN just ordered to pay $5 million in a defamation case. We'll get to that when we come back. AFP, Americans for Prosperity. I'm doing an event for them next week. In fact, next Friday, I won't be able to be here because I will be heading to an event for Americans for Prosperity. They're the largest leading grassroots group in the country. They happen to be on our side. They are conservatives who fight for common sense conservative solutions, and they would absolutely love to have you join them. They have chapters in almost every state. All you have to do is go to americansforprosperity.org, americansforprosperity.org, and let AFP teach you how to be an effective warrior for conservative free market reforms, for families, for school choice, for small businesses across America, to be door knockers for campaigns, to get out the vote, to educate your neighbors, or just to be the smartest person in your circle of friends. Go to americansforprosperity.org, americansforprosperity.org. We'll be right back with more breaking news.
Live from the Superior Plumbing Studios.
News,
weather,
traffic,
95.5 WSB.
Atlanta's News and Talk.
It is 12:30. Good afternoon. I'm Sabrina Cupid. New this half hour, the dangerously cold weather is forcing the inauguration inside. President-elect Donald Trump will take the oath of office from inside the Capitol Rotunda on Monday. That's according to a person familiar with the matter. Inaugural planners are discussing the possibility of moving Trump's swearing in inside due to the extreme temperatures and icy winds. We'll have live coverage of the inauguration Monday starting at 11:30 right here on 95.5 WSB. And it's going to be cold here, too. WSB meteorologist Christina Edwards says temperatures start to drop on Sunday, and then it's going to stay cold through Thursday. She says there could be 70 to 80 hours of sub-freezing temperatures here.
I'm worried about pipes bursting due to freezing temperatures. And, of course, anybody who has to work outside absolutely needs to bundle up from the cold.
And we'll have Atlanta's most accurate and dependable forecast coming up in just a matter of minutes. A water main break shuts down a busy road near Ansley Mall in northeast Atlanta. Crews working right now on a stretch of Monroe Drive near Piedmont Avenue. Most of the water is shut off in that area, including some businesses at Ansley Mall. We're working to learn more about how long those repairs will take and when that road will reopen. The Supreme Court upholding the law that will ban Chinese-owned TikTok if it is not sold to a U.S. company. Republican Senator Rand Paul voicing his thoughts on the law being upheld.
Disappointment. I do believe that banning a social media app like TikTok is a violation of the First Amendment.
Again, the law is set to take effect on Sunday. Let's take a look at the markets. The Dow's up 482 at 43,635. So the Dow's up more than 1%. NASDAQ's up more than 1.5%, and the S&P is not far behind. It's 12:32.
It's Eric here, and with the election ended, there is change in the air. A new day dawns for American businesses. New regulations, new deregulation, new tax plan, new tax cuts. You may be smelling opportunity in the air. You may be seeing opportunity. Now is the time to consider reaching out to First Liberty Building and Loan and see if they might be able to help you put your plan that's in your head down to paper and see if they can help you capitalize on it. There are so many opportunities out there. If you need to borrow $750,000 or more, well, First Liberty might be able to help you. They make their own lending decisions. They've been doing it since the 90s. They know how to do it, and because the Frost family's been helping businesses since the 90s, they're still going to be there. You're not going to have lender rollover like you've had at other places. Reach out to them, FirstLibertyGA.com. FirstLibertyGA.com. Spend 10 minutes with them, see if you're a fit for them and them for you. FirstLibertyGA.com.
The following is a paid commercial announcement.
Our farmers feed us all. For generations, they've done what's best for the land. So why is the litigation industry threatening Georgia farmers' go-to crop protection tool? Without glyphosate-based herbicides, crop yields will drop, costs will soar, and we'll all see even higher grocery bills. Farmers need to be supported, not controlled. To keep glyphosate available in our state, go to TakeControlGeorgia.com. Paid for by Modern Ag Alliance in support of Georgia farmers.
Belinda Skelton here with Dr. Ashraf with the Atlanta Vision Institute, and I'm a proud recipient of the laser optics procedure because it literally changed my life. I went from wearing glasses and contacts and not being able to see leaves on trees clearly, being tired when I read books at night, tired when I worked on the computer for long hours at a time. And I know that you hear a lot of this, Dr. Ashraf.
Yes, Belinda, I hear all these accolades all the time from patients. It is truly a life-changing procedure. This will not give you x-ray vision. However, if you want to get rid of the hassle of glasses and contacts and want to improve the quality of your life, this is a great procedure for you.
Go to 2020atlanta.com to find out more information. Take the quiz. See if this procedure is a good option for you. That website again is 2020atlanta.com. Your medical insurance may cover it.
Alex Williams has a look at the roads.
And we're already seeing the Friday volume through downtown through the lunch hour. You're hitting the brake light or the brake pedal 85 south at the 400 merge, and you're just going to stay on and off that brake from 17th Street on the connector south down toward I-20. Don't forget construction, Peachtree Road and northbound just north of Collier Road in the right lane, jamming the ride between Midtown and Buckhead. And better news in the cab, crash cleared 285 southbound, the inner loop before North Lake Parkway, exit 36. Still sluggish through Dorville. Alex Williams, 95.5 WSB.
This is WSB meteorologist Christina Edwards. A mix of sun and clouds today, high 56. Rain showers arrive after midnight and steady rain showers for tomorrow morning with lows in the mid-40s. A few hit-or-miss rain showers can't be ruled out for Saturday afternoon, high 55. Then drying out Saturday night, cooling down significantly on Sunday. Daytime highs in the mid-40s, but wind chills in the 30s.
52 degrees in Midtown Atlanta. We'll have more news at 1 o'clock. Breaking news when it happens. I'm Sabrina Cupid, 95.5 WSB.
He's got the courage to tell you the truth, because the truth is what matters. You're listening to The Eric Erickson Show.
Welcome back. It is Eric Erickson here. The phone number 877-973-7425. There is breaking news out of Florida. A jury has just determined that CNN defamed Zach Young with false reporting on his operation in Afghanistan. They have awarded him $4 million in economic damages, $1 million in emotional damages, and they have decided that they want to award punitive damages as well. So the trial is now moving to punitive damages. They've got to decide, essentially the jury will have to decide how much they must make CNN pay to deter CNN from ever doing this again. I honest to God am shocked this case went to trial. I have kept my mouth shut on this, waiting to see how this one played out in court. But you may remember this case. It happened on Jake Tapper's show, and the CNN Foreign Affairs National Security correspondent essentially ran a story about a man whose name was Zachary Young. Zachary Young was willing to help people escape Afghanistan. But to do so, Zach Young was not a wealthy man. To do so, you had to have money to help cover your costs, and Zach was able to get you across the border. He was helping people escape. He was doing a good service. But the national security correspondent for CNN turned it into a story of someone taking advantage of the situation to run a black market on escapes or some such. If you go behind the scenes, the text messages from people, a number of the editors and producers at CNN said that this story was very emotional, but there wasn't much there. And the national security correspondent for CNN said he essentially wanted to nail this guy, that he had a punchable face, among other things. And they defamed the guy. He's a private citizen. He's not a public figure. Therefore, the defamation standard was lower. He was providing a service helping people escape from Afghanistan, and instead of looking at a private citizen of the United States of America helping people escape Afghanistan, they tried to slime the guy. Jake Tapper's a friend of mine. He was involved in the lawsuit because it aired on his program, and between his statements and the statements of others behind the scenes, they engaged in defamation. And this guy suffered economically. There were people who testified that because of the reputation after the CNN report, it was difficult to try to bring this guy in for different projects, and it cost him money. I need to dwell on this for a little more time than what I intended. I got stuff I want to talk about, but I think this is more important. I don't think it's a coincidence you're seeing more and more people sue media outlets for defamation. Fox News with Dominion and Vote-Matic and stuff, and the different voting machines, or the suing of Rudy Giuliani by the election workers. We're seeing more and more defamation cases. Folks, this isn't complicated. We have a free speech right in our Constitution, and that means that the government cannot silence you. When you say something, the government can't shut you up. That's part of the TikTok case. The government doesn't care what you say on TikTok. The government cares greatly that China controls it and controls what you're seeing on TikTok. But you can say whatever you want to say, and you can say it on TikTok, you can say it on Instagram, you can say it on Facebook, or you can say it in the town square, wherever you want. Private companies, however, they have problems. So if you want to stand in the town square and use the N-word, you have a constitutional right to do that, whether I think you should or not, and the government can't stop you. But if you want to do it on social media, the social media platform is a private institution, they can say, we don't want that language here, and shut you up. When you go out and lie about somebody, you have a constitutional right to say whatever you want, whether it's true or false. But when you lie about someone, you also have a responsibility when you lie about someone to suffer the consequences of your actions from that person. The government cannot sue you. If I say Eric Erickson was seen last night doing untoward things in the middle of a field, whatever you want to say. You know what? It's not true. Eric Erickson could sue. The government can't stop you from saying it, but Eric Erickson could sue if you lie about him, if you lie about me. Because I'm a public figure, there's a higher bar to it in that you have to know it's not true, or you have to say I'm guilty of a crime. You have to, like, for example, the Donald Trump situation, where Donald Trump was able to settle with ABC News because George Stephanopoulos accused Donald Trump of rape. Rape is a felony. It's not true. Donald Trump has not been convicted of rape, and yet that's what George Stephanopoulos accused him of. And Donald Trump was able to get punitive damages, or was able to settle, rather, with ABC News because of it. I don't think, and there's Nick Sandmann. Nick Sandmann is another one, also a CNN case. Nick Sandmann was the young man wearing the Make America Great Again cap at the Right to Life march. The American Indian guy came up to him, and Nick Sandmann was just standing there when the American Indian came up to him, who was apparently a progressive activist, if I recall. And they got into some sort of confrontation, and CNN and other media outlets vilified Nick Sandmann, made him the bad guy. When he was there first, he was just standing there, and they made him a household name. He was a private citizen, and Nick Sandmann sued, and they had to settle with him. Time and time again, and the pattern tends to be, it's conservatives these days who are suing and winning. Look at Sarah Palin and her lawsuit against the New York Times some time ago, where they accused Sarah Palin of being complicit in the assassination of Gabrielle Giffords, which wasn't true. I think you're going to find more of this because members of the press do have a bias against those of us on the right. Members of the press are more comfortable in the worldview of the left. Members of the press are more in the bubble of the left. And members of the press truly believe that they are above accountability, and they think they can get away with things. They can say things that aren't truthful and issue a retraction without consequence, they think. The chickens are starting to come home to roost for this level of arrogance. There's a report out today that CNN is thinking of moving Jim Acosta, who has a TV show on CNN, to midnight to 2 a.m. Jim Acosta is an elite, arrogant SOB at CNN. I have really good relations with a number of anchors at CNN. None of them have anything nice to say about Jim Acosta, who used to be a just run-of-the-mill nice guy reporter, but during the Trump years was defined by his antagonism of Trump and got a really big ego about it. In fact, multiple colleagues of Jim Acosta have told me in the past that when Jim was just a reporter, Jim was a great guy, but when Jim got bitten by the celebrity bug, Jim became an SOB. They actually didn't say SOB. They said other words that I really can't say on radio. And Jim's show is not very good. It is just nonstop Trump derangement syndrome. And Jim is going to be shifting to the midnight to 2 a.m. time. They're looking at moving Wolf Blitzer earlier in the day, moving around the lineup. I still think they should just, take my radio show. I cover more news more accurately these days than most. Just take the live feed of my radio show and fill up the day part of CNN, and you get better ratings. People are holding the press accountable, and they should. They absolutely should. The press has been running roughshod over too many people, particularly people on the right. And there's got to be a reckoning. Look, so what I was going to talk about this segment before this news broke on CNN was how there appears to be a bit of a reckoning happening among Democrats right now over Joe Biden. There's actually a very big piece in the New York Times today puffing up some reporters who have a tell-all book coming about the end of the Biden administration. And it turns out Chuck Schumer showed up on Joe Biden's back porch back in July to tell him that his pollsters knew that Joe Biden only had a 5% chance of winning. No one was telling Joe Biden the truth. And Chuck Schumer was there to tell him, you got to get out of the race. And if you believe this, it was Chuck Schumer confronting Joe Biden that convinced Joe Biden he probably needed to get out of the race. Well, but the undercurrent here is that for months and months, Democrats knew Joe Biden needed to get out of the race. None of them had the courage until after the CNN debate to tell him he needed to get out of the race. What we're starting to see is real accountability cropping up on the Democratic Party side. I don't know how much it's going to be, but a lot of them are starting to realize we can't continue on with the people who are willing to cover for Joe Biden. But members of the press did it too. And there's not going to be a reckoning for members of the press. The press has wrecked itself. The ratings are in the tank. The revenue is down. There are all sorts of people who, for example, we put up a piece on Instagram the other day. They're like, well, there's no competition for Fox. That's why it's rated so much. That's actually not true at all. That's a very dumb and ignorant statement based on the data. There are actually a lot of people who watch Fox News who don't consider themselves Republican or even right-leaning. They watch Fox News because they think during the day part they do a better job of covering the news beyond Donald Trump. That's actually in the data. Brett Baer does a very good job covering stuff beyond Donald Trump with Special Report. But people don't want to recognize the truth. They just, oh, I don't like Fox News because it's conservative. You know, a lot of people who watch Fox News don't like Fox News, but they really hate CNN and MSNBC. They just are tired of the Trump derangement syndrome at those networks. So, by the way, side note here. My buddy Leland Villard, I'm on his show on News Nation. If you haven't been watching News Nation to get your news, that's a network you probably want to watch. Leland has been doing a 7 p.m. show, and they're moving him to 9 p.m. to prime time. And he's fair and actually balanced. One of the things I love about his show is rarely does he have two people on, of someone on the left and the right yelling at each other. He gets somebody like me on from the right and asks probative questions, playing devil's advocate, and then does the exact same thing with the person on the left. So you're actually having a reporter push back both sides, and I think he does a remarkably good job of it. I'm happy for his success, and I would tell you, if you haven't seen News Nation, it's on your local cable channel. If you got YouTube TV, it's on that and others. I have really been enjoying watching News Nation. I thought they did a good election night coverage. I think that they are more and more becoming the news network people say they want, one that's actually straight down the middle and just gives you the news. It's not there to tell you narratives. It's not there to give you spin. It's just there to tell you news. And that is something I appreciate Leland Vittert is committed to, and I'm happy for his success as he moves into 9 p.m. I'm happy to be on that show regularly. It's the only news show these days that I don't roll my eyes about when I get an invite from them, because I know it's actually going to be a probative, thoughtful conversation. It's going to be unpredictable, whereas so many other news outlets out there right now, when you go on, it's just very predictable. and I don't think anybody gets anything out of it. So good for Leland, and I would encourage everybody to start watching News Nation. I've enjoyed being on the network and enjoy their coverage. Before I get out of here, I got to tell you about the Eden Pure Gin 40. I've got it all. I've been telling you all week I've got it. It has been cold in this office, and I finally talked to the manager. And they've got their air system in here where when it's really hot outside, they can cool it down by about 20 degrees. And when it's cold, they can raise the temperature. But when it gets too cold or too hot, the air system struggles because of the age of the building and the HVAC system. That's where the Gin 40 comes in. It's a great supplement. So it uses two heating types. It uses convection and it uses infrared. And it oscillates, it tilts up and down and turns side to side, so it covers the room, it lowers heating bills, it heats up rooms efficiently. It's on sale right now at EdenPureDeals.com. And if you put in the discount code ERIC50, ERICK50, the number 0, ERICK50, you can get $50 off the already great sales price of the Eden Pure Gin 40 heater. And by the way, during the summer, you can turn off the heating elements and you can use it as a fan. It's an oscillating fan. It will blow cool air. I use it in the summer sometimes. I use it frequently here in the winter in my office when it gets cold. EdenPureDeals.com. The discount code is ERIC50. You get it's already on sale, and you get $50 extra off the Eden Pure Gin 40 heater. EdenPureDeals.com, discount code Gin. EdenPureDeals.com, discount code is ERIC50.
When the world seems crazy, he'll keep you sane. It's the Eric Erickson Show.
1251 Coolray Carrier WSB 24-hour traffic center. Still seeing the delays through DeKalb on 285 east and northbound, the outer loop, leaving Boulder Crest Road, trying to get onto 20 eastbound, right lane construction on the collector distributor ramp before Wesley Chapel. Once you get past that on I-20 eastbound, you stay slow out toward Panola Road. Crash moved all to the right there. And we're still seeing the brake lights continue to grow through downtown, 400 southbound, now slowing just south of Lenox and Buckhead, with the connector south delays growing past North Avenue, northbound sluggish, University Avenue up past Freedom Parkway. Alex Williams, 95.5 WSB.
Everyone has an opinion.
Your baby is ugly.
Eric Von Hessler has an opinion.
I abhor violence. Unless it's on the football field, where it belongs.
And some advice.
A meme coin, of course, something I don't really understand. Don't ever buy one. There you go. I just gave you some great advice.
Eric Von Hessler, today at 3.
95.5 WSB, Atlanta's News and Talk.
I'm here with Chris Hoffman, the founder of Hoffman Financial Group and host of Money Unleashed. Chris, with all the things we're reading, seeing, and living through these days, from rate cuts, election season, and now a new administration, now seems like a great time to make sure we have that comprehensive plan in place. You know, the one that covers all our financial bases.
There are occasions throughout the year where I feel like it's critical for people to engage their financial lives and get the information that they deserve from a financial advisory team. And this is one of those times, to be quite frank. So we ask that you call us if you have a minimum of $500,000 in your full portfolio. But we're going to do away with that minimum so that those folks can have an equal opportunity to understand what's in their portfolio as well. Now, you have to have some money, right? I can't help you to build your wealth at work, right? But I sure can help, I believe, with your 401k, IRA management. There's probably 2 or 3 things that'll surprise you that you may want to take action on. So the next 10 people that call in, we'll work up either a portfolio x-ray, or if you feel like you need a full retirement plan, go to unleashyourmoney.com, click on portfolio x-ray, or click on full retirement plan. We think you'll be impressed enough, and we want you to become a client. There's no question about it. We believe that we are a very competent fiduciary advisory team, and we want to offer that to our listeners. Let Hoffman Financial Group actually show you how we perform, and I believe we perform at the pinnacle of this industry.
Call the Hoffman Financial Group at 404-737-3858, 404-737-3858, or online at unleashyourmoney.com. Investment advisory services offered through Brookstone Wealth Advisors, a registered investment advisor. Insurance and annuities offered through Hoffman Financial Group Incorporated, Georgia Insurance License number 163546.
WSB Atlanta, WSB FM, and HD1 Doraville. 95.5 WSB, Atlanta's News and Talk.
When it comes to cooling, heating, and hot water for your home, there's a solution that's good for your wallet and the planet.
I switched to a water furnace geothermal heat pump because it uses the energy in my yard to provide incredibly efficient conditioning for our home and uses zero on-site fossil fuels. I'm protecting resources for future generations. It's a win for our environment.
I made the switch to water furnace geothermal because it will pay for itself in just a few years. While the upfront cost might be higher, incentives and rebates make it affordable for everyone. Water furnace units are twice as efficient and last 40% longer than other HVAC systems. And the average water furnace owner in Georgia pays less than $50 a month to condition their entire home. It's a win for our family's bottom line.
Whether you're driven by the environment or by savings, water furnace geothermal heat pumps provide the best of both worlds. Make the switch today. Visit waterfurnace.com to learn more about how geothermal can work for you.
All the news, weather, and traffic you need. 95.5 WSB.
Join Eric's Army of Activists. Text ARMY to 33777 now.
You know, I got to say, it is remarkable to me. I've got somebody coming after me on Twitter now saying that actually the TikTok ban was because of all the, they don't like people on TikTok saying stuff. They don't care about you on TikTok. The vanity of social media influencers who think things are about them. It's like I saw Stephen Miller, great writer at The Spectator, pointing out that, you know, the late night comedians and people on the left on TV, they're like, Donald Trump, he's going to come after me first. He's going to come after me. They got to convince their audience that somehow they're a threat to Donald Trump. I assure you, Donald Trump does not care about you, Stephen Colbert. You're not even that funny. And he couldn't care less that you say mean things about him on late night TV. He's got bigger fish to fry than you. But you got to say, it's like all the ladies on MSNBC. He's coming after me first. I won't be here next week because I'll be in the gulag. No, you won't. You may be like getting your Botox in, but you're not going to be in the gulag because Donald Trump doesn't particularly care about you. If he's coming after MSNBC, he's going after Comcast, which owns you. He's not coming after you. And anyway, you've kind of helped Donald Trump get reelected. If we're real honest about it, MSNBC actually deserves credit for helping Donald Trump get reelected because they allowed progressives in their bubble to be convinced they were right about a host of bat crap crazy things. And the left doubled down on all the craziness. I mean, boys in girls' bathrooms and boys in girls' sports, the anti-American hate, the anti-Israel, anti-Semitic hate that's out there. MSNBC played a great role in then covering for Joe Biden's mental decline. So, if anything, Donald Trump should probably elevate them because they really helped him get elected just through their lies, distortions, and nonsense against him. He was able to use that against them. This hour of the program is brought to you by First Liberty Building and Loan. If you're buying a building, building a building, if you see opportunity this coming year, Trump's coming into office, economy hopefully going to get better, you see opportunity for your business to grow, reach out to him. FirstLibertyGA.com. Now, when we come back, I have been asked to go back down the rabbit hole from my third hour yesterday and explain to you the trap that is coming for Republicans as they try to do a tax cut package. It's probably the most important thing I'll talk about this week, and you really need to understand what's coming because the trap has been laid for the GOP, and they're going to have to carefully navigate it.
Scott Slade here to talk to you about your health, and I think it's real important to talk about what is most likely to kill you. Heart disease is the #1 killer of Americans, and the older we get, the more prevalent it is. But you can reduce your risk. Eat right, don't smoke, exercise, and be informed about what's going on in your own body. Like lots of potentially serious health problems, if you catch heart disease early, you vastly increase your chances of living a longer life. And that's where virtual imaging comes in. Virtual imaging scans take less than 10 minutes and screen with 98% accuracy for heart disease. Other scans, including brain and full body, are available too. Virtual Imaging is locally owned and operated in Atlanta for over 15 years, so they can make you this terrific offer. A complimentary heart scan for you and your spouse with a few minimum requirements. So don't put this off. I've done it. Call Virtual Imaging today for your free heart scan. 770-678-SCAN. That's 770-678-7226. Or visit their website at virtualimagingatl.com.
News,
weather,
traffic. 95.5 WSB, Atlanta's News and Talk.
Hi there, good afternoon. It is 1 o'clock. I'm Sabrina Cupid. This news sponsored by American Crawl Space Solutions. We have a breaking news this afternoon. Mother Nature sending Trump inside on Monday.
CBS News special report. The Trump inauguration will move indoors on Monday to the Capitol Rotunda. The president-elect said on social media it's due to the bitter cold that's forecast for Washington, D.C. CBS's Nicole Skanga.
The low on Monday is predicted to be a whopping 11 degrees, a high of 23 degrees. And certainly I was out with the U.S. Coast Guard just days ago as they were preparing for this event by crushing some of the ice along the Potomac to ensure that the waterways were prepped for patrol.
The weather pattern's part of an Arctic blast affecting much of the country.
Certainly law enforcement, from their perspective, moving this indoors would actually make it an easier event to safeguard. There's sort of less visibility than when you're outside, and of course law enforcement prepared for both contingencies.
This has been done before. The second Reagan inaugural was an indoor event in 1985 because of the cold. CBS News special report. I'm Steve Kathan.
And of course, we will have live coverage of the inauguration Monday starting at 11:30 right here on 95.5 WSB. It's going to be cold here too. Today, not so much. Afternoon highs around 56, and it's going to be windy, but we are in store for those dangerously cold temperatures too.
For the rest of the week, potentially 80 hours out of the next, say, 5 days where temperatures are going to be below freezing.
WSB meteorologist Christina Edwards says those temperatures will start dropping Sunday. She'll have Atlanta's most accurate and dependable forecast straight ahead. This is new. Repairs are now complete in Paulding County on a portion of a major gas line running from Texas to New Jersey. Alpharetta Base Colonial Pipeline saying Line 1 is back in service now. The line had to be shut down on Tuesday because of a possible leak. More than 1 million barrels of gasoline flows through that line every day. Experts say this temporary shutdown should not impact gas prices for you and me. The Supreme Court upholding the ban on TikTok, and despite that, the U.S. Supreme Court's decision today, one tech expert says social media users, especially kids, are already ahead of the game. Cyber expert Alan Krowitz says policing the internet and social media is nearly impossible for government.
In the cyber world, government is famous for being very slow to react. So business moves very quick. They'll come up with an alternative, and then years later, the government will go, hey, wait a minute. People are just doing this instead to work around it.
Yeah, he says kids are already working around Florida's law prohibiting children under 14 from joining social media. Let's take a look at the market. It's been a good day on Wall Street. The Dow's up 439, 45,593. So the Dow's up more than a full percent. NASDAQ's up more than 1.5%, and the S&P is also up more than 1%. It's 102.
At Shane Company, we believe everybody is made to shine. So put on earrings that make you sparkle, diamonds that light up the room, a modern heirloom you'll treasure. We're all made to shine. Shane Company, your friend and jeweler.
This holiday season, it's all about gratitude. This is Scott Slade, and to share in that spirit, I'd like to share a few heartfelt thank yous my friends at MyLand have received recently.
I was in such a financial bind with heavy credit card debt dating back to COVID. MyLand went above and beyond to save me over $500 per month and eliminated the high interest rates on my credit cards. What a relief. I will be referring my family and friends to MyLand. Thank you.
Folks, I could read testimonials and stories like this for days. If you haven't taken the time to call MyLand to see what options are available for you to save money with your refinance, you need to set aside a few minutes and do just that. Call MyLand, 770-817-2000. That's 770-817-2000. Online, it's myland.com, spelled it M-I-L-E-N-D. NMLS and Georgia Mortgage License C148769, located at 8995 Westside Parkway, Alpharetta, Georgia 30009. MyLand is an equal housing lender.
Hey everyone, it's Ted from Consumer Cellular, the guy in the orange sweater, and this is your wake-up call.
If you're paying too much for wireless service, you don't have to keep having that nightmare. Consumer Cellular has the same fast, reliable coverage as the leading carriers for less. And for a limited time, new customers receive their second month free when they sign up and use promo code SECONDFREE by January 26th. So why keep spending more than you have to? Seriously, wake up and call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com.
Taxes, fees, and other third-party charges will apply. See website for additional details.
Life insurance. Why are you putting it off? Can't afford it? Too much hassle? Think you don't need it? There's lots of excuses for putting off life insurance. But if you weren't there, who would pay the mortgage and other bills? With Ethos, you could be covered in 10 minutes and boom, family protected. Ethos, fast and easy online term life insurance. Up to $2 million in coverage with no medical exam. Some policies as low as $1 a day. Answer a few health questions and get your free quote at checkethos.com. That's checkethos.com.
Live team coverage of traffic and weather. Alex Williams in the WSB 24-hour traffic center.
Slow on 575 south through Kennesaw, leaving Bells Ferry. That rolling construction has been in the right lane approaching I-75. Be mindful of that. If you're traveling 75 north or south through Marietta, seeing just the Friday volume anywhere between Marietta and the Ackworth area. Also slow into Cab, 285 east and north. The outer loop jammed up from 675, trying to ramp onto 20 eastbound. Right lane construction on that collector distributor ramp. And a crash just past that off to the right before Panola. Alex Williams, 95.5 WSB.
I'm WSB meteorologist Christina Edwards. Plenty of sunshine today, high 56. Clouds rolling in for tonight, lows in the mid-40s. Morning rain showers and then hit or miss rain in the afternoon, high 55. The rain moves out late Saturday night. Arctic air arrives on Sunday with a high of 45.
55 degrees in Dunwoody. It's 57 in Riverdale. Forest Park has 56 degrees. More news at 1:30. Breaking news when it happens. I'm Sabrina Cupid, 95.5 WSB.
1-0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hello, America. It is Eric Erickson here. It's an open line Friday. The phone number, 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, I would be happy to have you. Although, I got to tell you, I hadn't had a chance to take phone calls yet because there's been so much news happening. Just to review the headlines real quick, we got Donald Trump moving his inaugural indoors on Monday because of the weather. Joe Biden declaring the Equal Rights Amendment part of the Constitution, even though it's not. Also commuting 2,500 sentences. Mike DeWine, the governor of Ohio, is going to appoint John Husted. I said Husted. It's my buddy Nick, the PD at WHIO in Dayton, says it's Husted. Will be the next senator from Ohio. And CNN has been found liable in the defamation case down in Florida. Lots of news going on. Yesterday, at the end of the program, I talked to you about the bond market. And it was somewhat boring, somewhat esoteric, I know, but it's really important. A buddy of mine emailed me yesterday and said, you should write that down and send it out. And I did this morning. If you're a subscriber, if you text data to 33777, no, paid, free, doesn't matter. You got it this morning. But then a buddy of mine this morning read it and said he heard yesterday's show. Having written it down, I should try to walk you back through this because it's that important. And then I saw a Bloomberg News piece that kind of emphasizes just how important this fight is. And for those of you who have no idea what I'm talking about, let me just start with the Bloomberg News piece so that you have a sense of what's going on before I really dive into the data, because this is the most important thing Republicans are going to have to deal with domestically. Surging long-term interest rates and stubborn inflation are inflaming divisions among congressional Republicans over paying for the sweeping tax cuts Donald Trump promised, complicating the path to passage with the party's already tenuous majority. The bond vigilantes are coming. Representative Andy Barr of Kentucky warned a group of House Republicans behind closed doors on Wednesday, resurrecting a catchphrase of the 1980s and 1990s when concern over high interest rates set by the bond market drove Washington to take painful steps to bring down budget deficits. Barr, a senior member of the Financial Services Committee, pointed to a jump in long-term rates since September. This is a tipping point, said Barr, a firm tax cut supporter, urging his colleagues to come up with credible spending cuts to assure bond investors the federal deficit won't balloon. The mood in markets and the nation's financial situation are starkly different from 2017 when Trump and congressional Republicans passed a deficit-expanding tax cut. Yields on benchmark 10-year Treasury notes touched 4.8% this week, double what investors demanded just before Trump started his first term. Total U.S. government debt held by the public reached almost 100% of the economy size last year, up from 76% in 2017. The nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office warned on Friday U.S. government debt is on track to exceed record levels set at the end of World War II in just 4 years, reaching 107% of GDP in 2029. I realize a lot of this is over your head. It's complex, and I'm not a math guy. I'm not an economics guy, but I know the people to talk to, and I can sum this up for you very easily and why this is the most important thing that the Republicans are going to have to deal with. The United States government bond, so for very easy primer here, the government never balances its budget. It always spends in a deficit. It always spends more than it takes in. The government does not print money to cover the excess because, as we saw with Joe Biden, that causes inflation. What the government does is it issues bonds. The United States Treasury bond is considered one of the safest investments on planet Earth because the United States government is required by law to repay its debts. It cannot not pay its debts. And under our American constitutional system, debts must be paid before everything else. So investors will buy our bonds. There is thinking in some sectors that as the United States gets a bigger and bigger deficit, they're going to have to convince people to buy bonds by giving them higher and higher interest rates. There's actually no proof that that is the case. You need to understand this from a buddy of mine who does this for a living. He says, if you look at the United States, Japan, European Union, and other countries over the last couple of decades, there's been fiscal insanity the whole time. And bond yields have been pretty low. Bond yield is the interest payment on the bond. Now, here's a number for you. I'm going to do this with as few numbers as possible. For every 1/10 of 1% that the government increases the interest rate on a bond, that costs the government $300 billion more over 10 years. In other words, for every 1/10 of 1% of an interest rate increase, the government has to spend $30 billion more a year. Now, I want you, if you can, I want you to picture two buckets in your head. One is the government bucket, and one is the private sector bucket. And this is the problem with our budget deficit and national debt. Do this for me. Picture two buckets in your head. If you're capable of forming pictures in your head. Again, I am today years old learning. My daughter was telling me that in addition to people who can't have conversations in their head without speaking it out loud, there are people who can't visualize things in their head. I'm stunned by this, but apparently there are. If you're one of the people who can visualize two buckets in your head. One is the government bucket and one is the private sector bucket. The private sector bucket is stocks. The public sector bucket is treasury bills, bonds. Where are you going to throw your money? Just follow this visual with me. You've got the government bucket and you've got the private sector bucket. You can buy stocks, and I realize bonds and companies too, but I'm trying to simplify this. You buy stock in a company or you buy government bonds. Your money's either going into the private sector or it's going into the public sector. The public sector is paying 4.8% interest. That's a really good rate of return. So you throw your money in the public sector. Well, now the private sector, it isn't growing. So now the government keeps inducing you to throw more money into the government bucket. Private sector's not growing, but wait, the Democrats say, we've got to pay this government bucket down. We got to pay the debt. So what do? They got to take money out of the private sector. So now you've shrunk the amount of money, you've reduced the amount of money in the private sector with taxes. And the money in the bucket for the government keeps growing. The problem with constant spending by government is bondholders are guaranteed their payment back. There's no risk. You get a great interest rate and no risk, so you buy government bonds. So it's not just they're not buying stock in companies. They're not investing in companies. They're not doing things to raise your wages. They're just growing government. So the more the government spends, the smaller the private sector gets in terms of gross domestic product. And this becomes a cycle. You now can't generate, you've shrunk the private sector so much by spending so much in government, you can't raise taxes enough to even meet the interest payments. And it becomes a wreck and a bankruptcy. This is what Republicans have to worry about now, is that if they do a tax cut package and they can't stimulate the private sector to grow, they're going to actually shrink the private sector. If you're increasing government debt, you're taking money out of the private sector and putting it in the government. The government doesn't generate a good rate of return on investment, only the private sector does. So you've got to figure out a way to stimulate the private sector. And there are tax cuts you can do to do that. You can cut the capital gains tax, for example. There are other tax reform packages you can do, and it's not really an income tax cut for you or me. It's an income tax cut for small businesses, for LLCs, for small corporations. You want them to thrive. You cut their taxes. They can hire more people. Their taxes are less. They have more money to spend. They can invest in their company. Instead of buying bonds, they're investing in their company. They're growing their company, and that's good. If you just cut taxes for everybody, income taxes, that's not actually economically stimulative necessarily. Republicans are going to have to figure this out. And what they need to do is spending cuts. If you reduce the size of the government, you increase the size of the private sector. And there are ways you can reduce the size of the government without making cuts, that is deregulation. But at some point, you're going to run up against cuts. And here's the problem. Every cut you make to government has a constituency. You want to cut the money to public schools? Well, what about the kids who go to public school? You want to cut transportation? What about the people who rely on public transportation to get to work? You want to cut health care? What about people who need government health care? You want to cut defense? What about keeping us safe? What about China? Republicans are going to have to figure out something to cut. If you just cut taxes and increase the deficit, you're going to take out more bonds, you're going to grow the national debt, that's going to shrink the private sector. At some point, bondholders start to get scared that, maybe they can't actually honor full faith and credit of the United States and pay back the bonds. What are the bondholders going to do? They're going to say, we're not buying any more bonds unless you up the interest rate. What did I tell you earlier? Every 1/10 of 1% adds $30 billion in debt service a year, $300 billion over 10 years. So now you've had your debt service, your interest rate has had to go up a percentage point. That's a whole lot of money for the debt. That means there's less for the education budget. That means there's less for the military budget. That means there's less for everything. And in addition, you've shrunk the private sector. So now you try to raise taxes to cover up the shortfall. There's less money there to collect in taxes. And this cycle gets worse and it spins faster. It's unsustainable. We're on an unsustainable path right now, and the GOP is going to have to manage this. There's one thing the GOP can do to give themselves wiggle room. Right now, our gross domestic product, you add up everything, every good and service we produce in this country, and you put it next to the national debt, and it's about equal. It's about 100%. If you can grow the gross domestic product, that is, you can reduce the public sector and increase the private sector, you grow the denominator of that equation. So you grow the gross domestic product, then debt in terms of GDP goes down, and that gives you wiggle room where people aren't afraid you're on the verge of a national bankruptcy. But something's got to be done. This is going to be very tough for the GOP. There are no easy answer here. Republicans and Democrats alike have spent so much, they've reduced the size and scope of the private sector in this country. The only way to get the money necessary to stimulate our economy is to begin cutting government, and every cut has a constituency. It's going to be deeply unpopular, but it's the only way for us to get out of stagnation as a country. Our economy is stagnant because we've grown the government so much the private sector can't keep growing. We have to shrink government and grow the private sector, and then we'll be able to actually have more money come into the federal government for other stuff. But without cuts, we can't get anything done. And the cycle is going to get worse and worse. Something's got to give.
He's got the courage to tell you the actual truth, even when it isn't popular. It's the Erick Erickson Show.
121 Coolray Carrier, WSB 24-hour traffic center, still jammed up in DeKalb, 285 eastbound, the outer loop from 675, trying to get onto I-20 eastbound with right lane construction on that collector distributor ramp. Also seeing the brake lights on 575 southbound, where they've been doing that rolling construction in the right lane, leaving Chastain Road down to I-75, and 75 north getting sluggish for the Friday afternoon through Marietta up into Ackworth. Traffic brought to you by Cordell & Cordell. Cordell & Cordell, a domestic litigation firm, is a partner you can count on. Call 866-323-7529 or visit CordellCordell.com. Alex Williams, 95.5 WSB.
News.
Atlanta police on the lookout
At the top and bottom of every hour.
2 people are dead and 19 others are injured after a small plane crashed.
And when it breaks.
Johnson with 218 votes right now, and it appears that would be enough to get him reelected House Speaker.
Check back 3, 4, 5 times a day.
95.5 WSB. Atlanta's breaking news station.
There's a new optimism in the air, and we think investors like you might have the best year ever. Hello, I'm Brant Frost, founder of First Liberty Building and Loan. Last year, we opened up our First Liberty Notes program to Main Street investors just like you, and the response has been just incredible. Everyday folks from all walks of life have enjoyed 8 to 13% interest rates while helping to fuel the growth of small businesses right here at home. If you're a qualified investor and have a minimum of $25,000, you too could be earning 8 to 13% interest rates. We'd love to have you join our First Liberty family today. We believe this is going to be a special year and a great year. We've got the projects. Now we need partners like you. Go to FirstLibertyGA.com and see if our First Liberty notes are right for you. Go to FirstLibertyGA.com. That's FirstLibertyGA.com.
First Liberty notes are not obligations of or guaranteed by any financial institution and are not secured by any collateral. They are not FDIC insured or guaranteed by any government agency. You could lose money. Purchasers must verify their SEC accredited investor status. Securities are not being offered in any jurisdiction in which it is unlawful. The following is a paid commercial announcement.
Our farmers feed us all. For generations, they've done what's best for the land. So why is the litigation industry threatening Georgia farmers' go-to crop protection tool? Without glyphosate-based herbicides, crop yields will drop, costs will soar, and we'll all see even higher grocery bills. Farmers need to be supported, not controlled. To keep glyphosate available in our state, go to TakeControlGeorgia.com. Paid for by Modern Ag Alliance in support of Georgia farmers.
Thanks for calling Reliable Heating and Air. This is Steve. How can I help you?
Hi, I know it's late, but my furnace just died on us.
Don't worry at all. We have over 300 technicians throughout Metro Atlanta and Macon, so we can get to furnaces fast.
Oh, thank goodness.
Oh, yeah, and it looks like you have a reliable protection plan.
Yeah.
Perfect. This service call is no charge, and so's the repair.
Thank you so much.
Get fast and fair price furnace repair. Go to reliableair.com.
Reliable air is always just right.
Men, if you're suffering from ED or PE, Priority Men's Medical Center will get your love life back in just one visit. Their painless breakthrough medical treatments eliminate ED and PE. Here's a specialist in men's health.
I'm Dr. Simovitz. Have Viagra or Cialis let you down? Priority Men's Medical Center offers the most effective treatments that eliminate ED and PE, with men lasting longer than ever. 98% of patients see instant results on their first visit.
Priority Men's Medical Center's breakthrough treatments will restore your love life regardless of age or medical history. Your consultation and first treatment are free. Plus, you'll see instant results in the office. Plus, qualified patients will have their testosterone checked free. Call 404-885-8885. 404-885-8885. To regain your love life in just one visit, call now. 404-885-8885.
Serving my country required sacrifice that changed my life forever. I remember the day I came home. Because of my injuries, this house wasn't right for me anymore. I remember the narrow doorways, the small bathrooms, the shelves out of reach when in my wheelchair. Every day was full of obstacles. I felt trapped. I remember a better day, the day my family received a specially adapted custom home from Homes for Our Troops. That day changed everything. Now we have a safe and accessible home to enjoy the freedom I fought for. This place, our home, is exactly what we needed to rebuild our lives.
Homes for Our Troops builds and donates specially adapted custom homes nationwide for severely injured post 9/11 veterans and enables them to rebuild their lives. Join our mission at hfotusa.org.
Your non-stop news source, 95.5 WSB, Atlanta's News and Talk.
Join Eric's army of activists and let your voice be heard. Text ARMY to 33777.
Hello there, it's Eric Erickson here. Let me start with some phone calls here, 877-973-7425. Tom, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm wonderful, Eric. How are you?
Great.
Good. So, quick question. Historically speaking, whenever the government reduces taxes or cuts tax rates, the revenues go up. That is a historical fact. JFK's famous line, it may sound paradoxical, but when you cut taxes, revenues go up. So if we're looking at a profit and loss statement, let's say, and you're seeing your income / revenue and your payments, your expenses, the income will go up. It did under Trump. So why is it viewed as a cost or an expense? Why are people saying that it's, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. And I actually, look, I'm not an expert, but I actually do know the answer to this, believe it or not. Two things. One, there are a lot of economists who argue we're on the other side of the Laffer curve now, where taxes are so low that the economic stimulative effect of a tax cut does not bring in enough revenue anymore to pay for the tax cut itself. It brings in revenue, but not as much as what the tax cut would otherwise cost. But here's the bigger issue. We have never have we cut taxes in this country and then offset spending enough. So we see a big bump in revenue from the tax cut. But we've begun to spend so much more as well that it still grows the deficit nonetheless. Even though and that's the problem. So the more we grow the deficit in the national debt, the less money there is in the private sector to keep coming in. That's the issue. I don't disagree with you at all, Tom. You cut taxes, we see a spike in government revenue because of the economically stimulative effect. The problem is, as government keeps growing, there's less and less economic stimulative effect because the government sector eats up the money. In fact, Hillsdale College actually has a great lecture series on this that you can take. That was not intentional to set Tom up for a great segue for Hillsdale, but actually it's perfect, Tom. If you go to ericforhillsdale.com, they've got about 40 classes you can take, and a couple of them are on this very issue in economics and how taxes and the government work in the macroeconomic sector. They're very informative. They're video series, about 30 minutes each, maybe 6 lectures, 30 minutes apiece. You do it at your own pace. I haven't taken the economics ones yet, and I probably should. The Constitution was great. C.S. Lewis, I love. I've done that one years ago. And the latest one is Genesis, and it's on the literature and the theology in Genesis. They're worth taking, but they've also got some great ones on economics. Go to ericforhillsdale.com, E-R-I-C-K, ericforhillsdale.com. Sign up today with Hillsdale College. It's a great way to start a relationship with them and a highly educational way to spend your day, and it's very stimulative.
Live from the Superior Plumbing Studios.
News,
weather,
traffic. 95.5 WSB.
Atlanta's News and Talk.
It is 1:30. Good afternoon. I'm Sabrina Cupid. The winter weather is forcing Monday's inauguration to be moved indoors. Correspondent Scott McFarland has more.
The proceedings will still happen at 12 p.m., presumably with the same speakers. They have an inaugural parade for each presidential inauguration, and according to the President-elect's Post and some of our reporting, they're going to move the parade indoors to Washington, D.C.'s basketball arena.
Now, the last inauguration that was moved inside was President Reagan's inauguration. We will carry Trump's live right here on 95.5 WSB Monday starting at 11:30. Partly cloudy here this afternoon, not quite as cold as it's going to get. Afternoon highs today 56, and then the temperatures start to tank on Sunday, and we are going to have below freezing temperatures, and WSB meteorologist Christina Edwards says they could last for a while. We are following a breaking story this half hour. Roswell Police Department on the scene right now of an officer-involved shooting. This is in the 500 block of Ansley Drive. We're working to get more details on this. We'll bring you any new information as we get it, so check back for updates. The Supreme Court says the ban on TikTok stands unless the Chinese company is sold to a U.S. company. All of this over national security concerns. Senator Richard Blumenthal has this message to angry users.
You can't see the Chinese who are collecting information about you. You can't visualize those spies.
President-elect Trump reportedly looking for ways to save TikTok before a ban takes effect this weekend. In Paulding County, a portion of a major gas line running from Texas to New Jersey is back in operation now. Alpharetta-based Colonial Pipeline saying the line is back in service, Line 1. It was shut down Tuesday because of a possible leak. More than 1 million barrels of gasoline flows through that line every single day. The temporary shutdown should not impact gas prices. It's 1:32.
Belinda here for Atlanta Vision Institute. I'm here to introduce you to a new procedure that Dr. Ashraf is performing called laser optics. This changed my life, folks. I was so tired of wearing contacts and glasses. The glasses were not around when I needed them. I had astigmatism, so the contacts didn't fit me well, and I had beginning stages of cataracts. So I went in. I was a great candidate for laser optics. It was a quick, painless procedure. The next day, it was like everything was in HD. The colors were more vibrant. The leaves were more vibrant. The sky was more vibrant. My husband was better looking. Everything was great. Laser optics with Dr. Ashraf, Atlanta Vision Institute. Go to the website 2020atlanta.com to find out more information. Also, take the quiz to see if this is a procedure that's good for you. Your medical insurance may cover it. That's 2020atlanta.com.
Hi, I'm David Nicholas, financial advisor and president of Nicholas Wealth Management. It's hard to imagine, but one day in retirement, your income will stop. You may have been working for 30 or 40 years, but now you'll have to depend on the money you've saved for the next 30 years. How do you know if you've saved enough? What does it mean to spend confidently in retirement? One of the worst things that you can do is get to retirement and not know how much income your investments can produce. At Nicholas Wealth, we created a plan that will show you what your investments can potentially generate in dividends, interest, and growth in retirement. We call this our Spend Confidently plan. When's the best time to turn on Social Security? What are some of the best dividend-paying stocks available? Our CPAs and CFPs will show you what your income number is and how a diversified portfolio of income-producing investments could potentially provide you consistent monthly income. Our Retire Ready Income Report, it's a $1,000 value. We'll provide it completely complimentary if you've saved more than $250,000 for retirement and you give us a call in the next 10 minutes. Number to call is 404-890-5606. That's 404-890-5606, or you can go to nicholaswealth.com.
Nicholas Wealth is an independent financial services firm that uses a variety of different investment strategies. This is prepared for informational purposes only. It does not address specific investment objectives or the financial situation and the needs of any person. This is a paid advertisement.
Live team coverage of traffic and weather. Here's Alex Williams.
Focusing in on DeKalb County right now, Sabrina, looks like we have a new crash, 285 southbound, the inner loop at I-20, exit 46. Already slow back before Covington Highway. 285 east and northbound, the outer loop. Still seeing those delays from Boulder Crest Road, trying to ramp onto I-20 eastbound with construction in the right lane of that ramp. And the construction looks to have wrapped up, or starting to, 575 south. It's been rolling in the right lane past Barrett Parkway. Alex Williams, 95.5 WSB.
I'm WSB meteorologist Christina Edwards. Sunny skies today, high 56.
We'll have more news at 2 o'clock. Breaking news when it happens. I'm Sabrina Cupid, 95.5 WSB.
Smart, fearless, and occasionally funny. You're listening to The Eric Erickson Show.
Welcome back. It's Eric Erickson here across the United States. It's an open line Friday. The phone number 877-973-7425. 877-97-ERIC, E-R-I-C-K. I need to spend a few more moments on Tom's point. I thought I could get through that and then realize what time it was. So, Tom, my apologies. But let me go back and explain this, because Tom is right, and the left hates it when you bring this up. Every time we've had a tax cut in this country, there's had an economically stimulative effect, and it has boosted revenue into the federal government. There's something called the Laffer curve. Art Laffer sketched it out on a napkin after a few cocktails one night. True story. And he convinced Ronald Reagan that it was so. And by the way, John F. Kennedy had already largely recognized this. Kennedy cut tax rates after World War II from 90% to 70%. Now, part of this is, though the rates were 70%, most people weren't affected by that. And here was part of the problem. The income tax code became very convoluted. It became so complex. So the very wealthy were affected, and the very wealthy had an army of accountants and tax lawyers who could find loopholes to save them money. And we had a great economy for accountants and tax planners and tax lawyers, but it was sucking a lot of energy out of the economy. So Kennedy cut it to 70, and then along comes Reagan in 1980 and buys into this idea from Art Laffer that you can cut taxes pretty dramatically, and it will grow the economy so much that even though you've cut taxes from 70% to 35%, you're going to generate so much private sector wealth, you're actually going to see an increase in revenue. And that actually happened. And the left for years has mocked that and denied it, but you can actually see it in the Treasury. The amount of money that came into the federal Treasury after Reagan's tax cuts actually was way more money than had ever come into government. The problem was in the Cold War. Ronald Reagan never controlled spending, and he did so for a strategic reason. Ronald Reagan understood that the Soviet Union was headed towards bankruptcy, and that we, because we had a pretty good fiscal house at the time, we could grow our economy with the tax cuts, and then we would be able to comfortably consume debt at the federal level without hurting the private sector, because we had gone from a 70% tax rate to a 35% tax rate. The economy was growing, so we could also grow the government with debt and not impact the growth of the private sector. And he was right. Deficits went up, the national debt went up, but we bankrupted the Soviet Union, we won the Cold War. Here's the problem. Some economists, including some supply-side economists who embrace the Laffer curve and supply-side economics, they are a little worried that we have gone to the other side of the Laffer curve, where tax cuts are low now. Taxes are low. They're historically low from where they had been. They're also broader. More people pay income taxes than before, although that has shrunk to a degree over the last 20 years. Fewer people pay taxes now than 20 years ago, but it's still pretty broad. Tax rate's still pretty low. And so there are even some supply-side economists who think, yes, if you cut taxes, you're going to have an economically stimulative effect. However, you're not going to bring in as much money this time as you might lose. The more concerning part that pretty much every economist, regardless of where they stand, agrees on, is that our government never likes to cut spending. So you cut taxes, it has an economically stimulative effect. It brings in more money to the Treasury. But because you haven't cut spending, the payments on the national debt are continuing to rise. You still have less money to spend in government because your debt service payments, and as your debt has grown, you've now shrunk the private sector. So any economically stimulative effect is offset by the shrinking of the private sector because of the growth of national debt. That's a real concern. It's a complex topic, and I am dumbing it down. But the bottom line, the real nutshell for everybody, Tom included, to understand is that, yes, you cut taxes, money comes into the federal government, but we've grown the national debt so much, we're shrinking the private sector. So there's less of an economic stimulative effect than there ever has been because government is so big in relation to the private sector now. So we got to cut government. We got to cut government. One of the first and easiest ways to cut government is deregulation. That's where the DOGE group is going to come in, Department of Government Efficiency. It's not an official government agency. It is Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy and smart people studying where can we cut spending, can we consolidate agencies, can we get rid of duplicative effects in the government, things like that. The problem is they're an outside advisory group. They're not legislators. Congress is going to have to do a lot of this. We've got to have Congress acting. But we have created a real mess with our economy, in large part because Democrats, Joe Biden's progressive advisors, embrace something called modern monetary theory, which essentially argued that we can just print money and pay our way out of all of our problems without ever encountering inflation. And they tried it, and look what happened. In fact, on modern monetary theory, look at that. Mark in Jacksonville, Florida. Didn't even see you there while I was talking about modern monetary theory. Welcome. How are you?
I'm living the dream. I hope you are.
I am.
Good. And that's exactly what I wanted to comment on. It seems to me that our federal government, both sides, have abandoned any type of fiscal responsibility and replaced with modern monetary theory. And in my opinion, all that's done now is make tax revenues by individual taxpayers nothing more than a voting item. The folks on the left want you to tax the folks on the right more. The folks on the right want to give tax cuts to their constituents.
Right.
And it sounds great at election time, but the reality of it is I think once they're sitting up there in Washington, they don't really care because they're just going to go ahead and print money to their heart's content, which devalues our retirement accounts, bank accounts, that kind of thing. But it seems to me the horse is already out of the barn on this. I hope Trump and Ramaswamy and Musk can rein in some of the stuff in the federal government, but I don't know how you pull this thing back.
Yeah, it's going to be a real concern. So, Mark, let me explain to people the basics. Modern monetary theory, first of all, it's a female academic who wanted to spend money. Pretty progressive female academic, and virtually every liberal and conservative. And this, by the way, you got to understand that in every aspect of the academic world, you got conservatives and liberals, and they tend to disagree. They may agree on the basics, like the supply and demand curve, but they disagree on application. They disagree on much. What was wild is that every liberal and conservative economist globally, not just in the United States, globally, agreed that modern monetary theory was baloney. Progressives in the United States and around the world embraced it because they wanted to be able to spend money. And so essentially, here's what modern monetary theory argued. And I'm dumbing it down a little bit, but it's dumb enough. It's easy to understand. Essentially, the government could print money. The government owns the printing presses for money and could print money and pay their way out of any problem. And if inflation appeared on the horizon, raise taxes enough on the wealthy that would fight inflation. How? They didn't care. If you want to visualize what's going on here, modern monetary theory and liberal economists and conservative economists, just picture yourself, close your eyes, you're walking down a dark hallway, pitch black, there's no light at all. And there's a hole in the floor, and you're going to fall through it. Conservative economists have long argued that if you fire up the monetary printing presses, you're going to immediately fall into that hole. Keynesian economists, liberal economists have argued that if you fire up the government printing presses for the money, you can walk down that hall a good little distance before you fall into the hole. Modern monetary theorists have argued that if you are walking down that dark hallway, somewhere down that hall is the trap door, but you're going to be walking for so long before you fall into that hole that you really should stop worrying about the hole. So the Biden administration embraced modern monetary theory, decided to just spend their way out of the COVID problem because interest rates were so low, the economy was so strong, they would be able to solve the COVID problem before the inflation monster reared its head, before they fell into the trap hole. And they pretty immediately fell into the trap hole. The conservative economists were the most right on all of this. And so what have the modern monetary theorists done? Three-card Monty. They shuffled things around and pretended that's not what we said. We said something different. It's kind of like, the communists always say, well, we'll get it right this time. They got it wrong. The Soviet Union really wasn't real communism. That's Cuba. Well, Cuba's collapsed. Well, they didn't really get communism right. China's getting it right. Well, China had to modify itself, and China didn't really get it right, but we'll get it right eventually. Someone will actually do communism as Karl Marx intended. It's just no one, Marx himself, has ever done it the way Marx intended. That's modern monetary theory in a nutshell. It's garbage. Speaking of, Scott Bessent, who was Donald Trump's, what is he? He's the Secretary of the Treasury nominee for Donald Trump. He was engaged with Bernie Sanders yesterday and actually had a very funny moment with Bernie Sanders. Got the better of Bernie Sanders in the exchange over the billionaires and the raising of taxes and the oligarchs. Let me see if I can find this clip for you. Reroute the sound there so you can hear it. Yeah, listen to this. This is pretty good.
But what I'm asking you is, when you have a handful of people like Musk, who will soon be part of the Trump administration, and others, when you have three people owning more wealth than the bottom half of American society, when these people have enormous influence over the media, when they spend huge amounts of money in both political parties to elect candidates, what Biden said last night is we're moving toward an oligarchy. I'm asking you that question. Do you think, forget how they made their money, do you think that when so few people have so much wealth and so much economic and political power, that is an oligarchic form of society?
Well, I would note that the President Biden gave the Presidential Medal of Freedom to two people who I think would qualify for his oligarchs. So
this is not a condemnation of any one individual.
Yeah, he gave the Presidential Medal of Freedom to George Soros and what was it, Bill Gates or Tim Gill or three of them? I can't remember which was, but Soros as well. It's like Biden's going to condemn these oligarchs, and he's given the Presidential Medal of Freedom to oligarchs. Maybe there's a disconnect there. Man, the more I hear Bessent, the more I'm thinking he is probably the right guy at the right time to deal with this wild situation with bonds, markets, and tax cuts. Speaking of, I mean, we get bond rates going up. We're going to have even bigger deficits and stuff. We're going to have fiscal carnage out there. It's why Swiss America has been the trusted leader of precious metals for 40 years and warning about a secret war on cash for some time. If you're interested in safeguarding your hard-earned cash from the secret war, you need their free report. They are rated A+ by the Better Business Bureau. They can educate you on protecting your assets in their report. It is completely free. The Secret War on Cash. Now, you need to get it. I've read it. It takes less than 50 minutes to read. It can save your retirement and finances. If you want to get a completely free copy of this report about the Secret War on Cash from Swiss America, call or text 800-289-2646. By the way, Secret War on Cash includes digital forms of currency. The government's trying to figure out that as well. Y'all, all you have to do is text my name, Eric, E-R-I-C-K, to 800-289-2646. That's 800-289-2646. One more time, 800-289-2646. Just text Eric, E-R-I-C-K, or call and mention my name, Eric, to 800-289-2646. Message and data rates may apply.
He's got the courage to tell you the actual truth, even when it isn't popular. It's the Eric Erickson Show.
150 Cool Day Carrier, WSB 24-hour traffic center. Work crews still rolling in that right lane between Kennesaw and the I-75 merge. This is 575 southbound passing Chastain Road exit 3, so just look out for a little bit of slow zone there as you leave Bells Ferry. Earlier crash, 285 southbound, the inner loop at I-20 into Cab, exit 46 is cleared. Already slow on 85 south, leaving Georgia 400, trying to head into Midtown. Traffic brought to you by Vestas. For the people who make it all work, Vestas delivers quality uniforms and workplace supplies for your business needs. Learn more at Vestas.com. Alex Williams, 95.5 WSB.
On air,
Online,
on the app,
where you get your news,
is where you'll win.
Download the WSB radio app now and maybe win $1,000.
That's amazing.
The WSB 5K a day bonus blitz.
5 words, 5 times a day, every
This
weekday.
is Dawn in Brazelton, and I just won $1,000 from WSB.
Just enter the word at WSBradio.com or on the WSB radio app.
Your next chance to win is coming up at 2
The WSB 5K a day bonus blitz.
on 95.5 WSB.
My old mentor, Adrian Rogers, taught me this. He said, "You are free to choose. You are not free not to choose. And you're not free to choose the consequences of your choices. Your choices choose those for you." I want you to hear that again. You are free to choose. You are not free not to choose. And you're not free to choose the consequences of your choices. Our lives and our eternities depend on our choices. This is Tom Gray, and This Stuff Matters.
ThisStuffMatters.net.
Are the effects of diabetes, prostate cancer, hypertension, or high cholesterol robbing you of your ability to perform in the bedroom? Choice Men's Health can help you eliminate ED and get your bedroom performance back in just one visit. Choice Men's Health offers breakthrough treatments for ED and performance issues in the bedroom to help you regain your confidence and give you back the intimacy with your partner. Call Choice Men's Health right now to make an appointment and find out how you can eliminate ED on the first visit. Popular name brand pills like Viagra and Cialis don't work for everyone and can have serious side effects. Choice Men's Health custom medications work immediately, even if you have a medical history or think you're too old to perform like you used to. Choice Men's Health can help you have a fulfilling sex life again. Call Choice Men's Health today at 404-400-1170. That's 404-400-1170. Once again, that's 404-400-1170.
At Shane Company, our engagement rings are the perfect blend of design, function, and beauty, each one a unique work of art. We meticulously craft our bridal jewelry in our jeweler's workshop to the highest standards, expertly setting each diamond by hand, ensuring the structure is perfectly balanced, and sizing everything for the perfect fit. Shane Company offers a free unmatched lifetime warranty because your engagement ring is an heirloom that was made to last. You'll cherish your ring today, tomorrow, and forever. Shane Company, your friend and jeweler.
WSB Atlanta, WSB FM, and HD1 Doraville. 95.5 WSB, Atlanta's News and Talk.
Winning in the NFL comes down to the basics, blocking and tackling. In retirement, protection and income are the keys to success. Simply put, if you're nearing or in retirement, you can't afford a stock market crash. Hi, I'm Mitch Lyons. Having played on winning teams with the Steelers and Falcons, studying game film was a key to success. Now I'm a best-selling author and star in a new groundbreaking documentary film called The Retirement Deception. It unveils how the Wall Street machine has been deceiving us for decades and proves you don't need to risk your nest egg in the market to have the retirement you deserve. This film shows you exactly how to protect your retirement from stock market drops and produce more income than you thought possible. I want you to watch this film for free. Call today for your free copy of The Retirement Deception. I think you would agree 30 to 40 years of saving for retirement is at least worth a phone call to watch this film and see how you can improve your retirement. Call today to speak with an all-pro retirement specialist to get your free copy of The Retirement Deception. Call 888-471-3896. That's 888-471-3896. MitchLyonsWealth.com. Your best game plan to protect, grow, and win retirement.
95.5 WSB, Atlanta's News and Talk.
On the iHeartRadio app. Available for Apple CarPlay and Android Auto.
Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here. The phone number is 877-973-7425. JD, you're going to be up next. Welcome.
Hey, Eric, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Boy, this has been some heavy stuff. This is not quite so heavy. You were railing earlier this week about the left lane loonies.
Oh.
They frustrate the heck out of me. And here's what I've done. When you're on the interstate, you just pass them, and then you get in front of them, and you go slower and slower and slower.
I have been
Pretty soon they get the hint, and they'll move over. It works every time.
I have been just incredibly tempted to do that. Now, I will tell you, I have a buddy, and what he does is he gets in front of them and turns his windshield wipers on with the windshield wiper washer fluid and annoys them that way to hope they get the hint. I have really been tempted just to go around them, get back in the left lane, and just take my foot off the gas and come to a crawl. But I don't understand the obliviousness. JD, now you fired me back up. It's your fault. Honestly, it's selfishness. There's a level of cluelessness and a level of selfishness that I pay for the roads, my tax dollars. You can't make me get out of the left lane. The lane is for passing by law in most states. Now, in Indiana, they actively enforce it. If you're in the left lane, from what I've been told and what I've read, if you're in the left lane for more than 20 seconds and a cop sees you, you can get pulled over. And I think that is a law that probably needs to be enforced in every state. In Georgia now, they're more and more actively enforcing it in places because you come over hills sometimes, and legitimately you will see 10 or 15 cars in the left lane, and the car in front is not going fast enough to pass the 18-wheeler. And they're like, well, I'm doing 70. That's the speed limit. That's not the point of that lane. The point of that lane is for passing, and you're actually making it unsafe. And I realize that your self-righteous selfishness, thinking, well, I'm doing 70, and that's the speed limit, and you can't go faster than me. You self-righteous piece of, I can't say that on radio. The point of that lane is for passing. You are causing people's road rage. You actually are. You're making people emotional, and they're going to start driving recklessly, and it is actually your fault. And you can lecture them and tell them they shouldn't be going more than 70 miles an hour, but in many states, including my own, you actually are allowed to go several miles over the speed limit, and you are not supposed to be driving in that lane. If you're going to argue that, well, 70 is the speed limit, I'm going the speed limit, you're arguing the law. And if you're going to argue the law, you must also then be bound by the law that says you're not supposed to drive in that lane. That's for passing. It's just, and it's always, it is a very large woman or someone from Florida. And I mean no disrespect, but you all know it's true. Every single one of you see it. It's somebody with a Florida license plate who's probably from New York and just moved down there, is headed back to New York, or someone who the jaws of life are needed to extract them from the vehicle because of their size. I just come on, people. It's the passing lane. It's not a driving lane. Get out of it. We'll be back.
Diabetes, high blood pressure, anxiety meds, everyone's on them. If you're a 50-year-old male, maybe a bit porky, and you may even have type 2 diabetes, $1 million of term insurance may only cost you about $200 a month. Call Term Provider. Speak with Big Lou at 800-200-1966. Big Lou will find a term life policy for you even if you have type 2 diabetes, are overweight, or have high blood pressure. Term Provider has helped thousands of people like you who think they can't afford term life insurance. To buy $1 million of affordable term life for you, all you need to do is call Big Lou at 800-200-1966. Lou will make sure the scales are tipped in your favor. Call 800-200-1966. Big Lou will answer your call and work to fit you into a term life policy that you can afford. Remember, Big Lou's like you. He's on meds too. Call 800-200-1966, 800-200-1966, or biglou.com.
News,
weather,
traffic. 95.5 WSB, Atlanta's news and talk.
At 2 o'clock, I'm Bill Caiaccio with our top local story. Predicted bitter cold weather leads to a change of plans for President-elect Trump's inauguration.
So we have an indoor event Monday, which does a couple things. Takes crowd size off the table as an issue that was surfacing in 2017, but it also makes it far less dangerous.
Washington correspondent Scott McFarland reports Trump and Vice President-elect J.D. Vance will now be sworn in inside the U.S. Capitol Rotunda. It is 58 degrees right now in Atlanta. Enjoy the sun today before the rain arrives. Meteorologist Christina Edwards has Atlanta's most accurate and dependable forecast coming up. Happening now, Roswell police tell us they are on the scene of an officer-involved shooting. It's in the 500 block of Ansley Drive near Old Alabama Road. The GBI has been called in to help with the investigation. Stay with WSB as we get more information. A major gasoline pipeline reopens after a leak in Metro Atlanta.
The repairs are done. The gasoline is flowing again. Colonial Pipeline today reopening, the nation's largest fuel pipeline. That's after discovering a leak in Paulding County, Georgia, earlier this week. Now, that line, called Line 1, transports 1.5 million barrels of gasoline every day from Houston, Texas, all the way to North Carolina. No cause for the leak has been determined just yet. I'm Bloomberg's Tom Busby for 95.5 WSB.
A new water main break in Atlanta. It shuts down a busy road near Ansley Mall in northeast Atlanta. Crews are working on a stretch of Monroe Drive near Piedmont Avenue. Most of the water is shut off to the area, including some businesses in Ansley Mall. We are working to learn how long the repairs will take and when the road will reopen. A new bill under the Gold Dome to make Georgia's schools safer with technology. It mandates installing the mobile panic systems that worked at Appalachia High School after the shooting there in September.
Just kind of once again, just in a very tragic, sad situation, just demonstrated that technology can save lives if it's implemented right.
Republican State Senator Jason Anavatarte says the bill, known as Ricky and Alyssa's Law, honors coach Ricky Aspinwall, who was killed in the shooting at Appalachia High School. TikTok users are weighing in after the Supreme Court's decision today upholding the law that would ban TikTok in the U.S.
I think it's just craziness, assuming that Chinese will collect an info from us from TikTok. I think it's just crazy.
I don't think they should ban it, but I think they should monitor it a little more because a lot of negativity has been put on there.
President-elect Trump may be considering an executive order to save TikTok. It is 2:02, and up next, live team coverage of traffic and weather.
How about a simple New Year's resolution? One where you're guaranteed to succeed. Hey, it's Mark Aaron back with you. Reverse the clock on hair loss with Advanced Hair's simple one-day treatment. You'll feel more confident and more youthful when you witness your own natural hair growing into those places where it's been balding or thinning for years. From Advanced Hair's breakthrough technology to their highly experienced team, there's no one I trust more in hair restoration. Their simple FUE treatment begins to regrow your own natural hair the very next day, and your new hair is backed by the Advanced Hair Guaranteed. Simply put, Advanced Hair's exceptional standard of care makes your comfort and your results their top priority. Did I mention the results can last a lifetime? Celebrate this new year with a fuller head of hair and get a free consultation, $250 off, and 250 free hair grafts. Call 470-660-HAIR. That's 470-660-HAIR. See what meeting your resolution could look like at advancedhair.com.
New year, new you, and a new level of organization awaits at Artisan Custom Closets. Tired of unorganized chaos in your closet? Let the local Artisan team transform any space in your home into an organized, efficient area. From a free consultation in your home to custom 3D designs that lay out your options and an installation process that takes no more than a day, Artisan Custom Closets makes it easy to create calm. Speak with a designer and schedule your free in-home consultation now at artisancustomclosets.com.
This holiday season, it's all about gratitude. This is Scott Slade, and to share in that spirit, I'd like to share a few heartfelt thank yous my friends at Myland have received recently.
After working with Myland, I have a deep appreciation for Myland's services. They took the time to listen to our unique situation and family goals to provide the best solution. I had no idea of the options that were available to us. Thank you again for the wonderful service and experience with a personal touch. I will be referring my friends and family to Myland.
Folks, I could read testimonials and stories like this for days. If you haven't taken the time to call Myland to see what options are available for you to save money with your refinance, you need to set aside a few minutes and do just that. Call Myland, 770-817-2000. That's 770-817-2000. Online, it's myland.com, spelled it M-I-L-E-N-D. NMLS and Georgia Mortgage License C148769, located at 8995 Westside Parkway, Alpharetta, Georgia 30009. Myland is an equal housing lender.
It is 2:05 and time now for live team coverage of traffic and weather in the 24-hour traffic center this Friday afternoon. It's Alex Williams.
Hey, Bill. Still watching delays on 575 southbound leaving Chastain Road, trying to ramp onto 75 south. That on and off right lane rolling road work there is what's causing that delay, while 75 northbound, just the afternoon volume filling in between Marietta and Ackworth. And don't forget that water main break we've been telling you about continues to have Monroe Drive shut down between Piedmont Avenue and Montgomery Ferry Drive. Traffic being rerouted through the Ansley Mall parking lot there. Alex Williams, 95.5 WSB.
I'm WSB meteorologist Christina Upwards. Plenty of sunshine today, high 56. Clouds rolling in for tonight, lows in the mid-40s. Morning rain showers and then hit or miss rain in the afternoon, high 55. The rain moves out late Saturday night. Arctic air arrives on Sunday with a high of 45.
Right now, beautiful. 57 degrees in Alpharetta, 58 in College Park, also 58 in Sugar Hill. More news at 2:30. Breaking news when it happens. I'm Bill Caiaccio, 95.5 WSB.
3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Greetings, my fellow Americans across the fruited plain. It is your host, Eric Erickson. I'm delighted to be here with you. It happens to be an open line Friday, 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, I would be absolutely delighted to have you. Don't forget, text the word Eric, E-R-I-C-K, to 33777. Sign up for the show notes. You can get the podcast, the 24/7 live stream. You can follow me on social media. I'll be doing lots of cooking this weekend, so you can follow me on Instagram. So my sister and brother-in-law come to visit. They want gumbo. I got to use my outdoor pizza oven for them. Cinnamon rolls, among other things. Everybody's got requests, so I'll be doing lots of cooking that I'll put on Instagram. Now, should you wish to be on the program again, 877-973-7425. But before we get into that, I have been somewhat suspicious of whether there will be a reckoning in the Democratic Party. And I don't know that there actually will be. But the New York Times ran a story today on Chuck Schumer and how Schumer privately pleaded with Joe Biden to get out of the race in July of last year. That Democrats, for some time, and this I think is the most notable part of it, Democrats for some time knew but were scared to say publicly that Joe Biden was not fit to be running again, let alone fit for the presidency. But they were too scared to say anything publicly. It was only after the CNN debate that Democrats were willing to finally speak up. And they were forced to by donors and voters and activists. The New York Times says people found Chuck Schumer's cell phone number. He's got a flip phone, hadn't changed his number in years. And people found his phone number in a Harvard alumni reunion book and started calling him unsolicited, begging him to get Joe Biden to drop out of the race. People he didn't know calling him, saying, please get him out of the race. And he finally manned up, worked up the courage, went to Delaware, sat on Biden's back porch and had a frank conversation with him that he had a 5% chance of winning re-election. That Kamala Harris might not win, but she had a better shot of it than Joe Biden. We're getting this now. But one of the interesting parts of this New York Times piece is that Jack Reed, the Democratic senator from Rhode Island, said he thought that Biden needed to have two different neurologists document that he was capable. And yet they wanted to leave him in the White House? They wanted to leave him? What about the 25th Amendment option? They knew Biden wasn't up to speed. When will the reckoning come, though, for the Democrats and members of the press who covered up Joe Biden? Now, a couple of things. This one caught my eye. I'm going to play in the entirety. This is Alejandro Mayorkas, the Secretary of Homeland Security, on CNBC. Listen to this.
Mr. Secretary, do you not, I mean, put the politics of the election aside if you want. Do you not look at the immigration issue in this country and what has transpired over the last 4 years, given the number of people coming into this country illegally, given the firestorm that this has created, the national dialogue about it, given some of the efforts, frankly, by the administration, especially early on, to be more lenient than they had been? Do you think none of those things, if you could go back, you would do differently?
Look, Andrew, yes. And you have to understand something, and this is not specific to government, but to any large organization, including a government administration. People have different views on what the correct policies should be, what the correct operational measures should be. Those disagreements, those different views are voiced, decisions are made, and then everyone marches in unity together. That is the nature of a large organization, and the government is no different.
But just so I'm clear, that are you suggesting your view, your own personal views about how to operate this were at odds, or there was a distinction between your personal approach and how you would have wanted to do it and how maybe your bosses wanted to do it?
I don't want to get into the deliberative process. We're one team, and it's one effort, but this is not a revolutionary concept, that there are disparate views when one has many people involved in the decision-making process.
Okay, now, if you will recall, and some of you were a little perturbed at me for pointing this out a couple of years ago, that one of the reasons Republicans weren't impeaching Alejandro Mayorkas was behind the scenes, he conveyed to them that he actually agreed with them, and if they impeached him, they knew and he knew Biden would put in someone very progressive. This seems at the end of his tenure to be his most public admission that is so, that he has disagreed with the Biden administration all along. It makes you wonder what he'll do when he's no longer a part of the administration. What will he say? But it's not just him. This is Anand Grhardadis. I'm mispronouncing his name. I know he's a very progressive pundit. He's on Morning Joe. He's very pro-Palestinian. Listen to this conversation.
I think what's really interesting about this moment of two presidents who don't much like each other working together, and maybe that pushing this over the line, is that it feels like America discovered its power and leverage in this moment after 15, 16 months of being the most powerful country in the world, and sort of asking Netanyahu nicely to stop doing things he was doing in the way he was doing them, and not really going much further than asking nicely, and sending strongly worded letters and continuing to send money and sending weapons. There was something in a way very humiliating for American power over the last year plus, where the most powerful country in the history of the world seems to not be able to control a very small country who is its financial dependent.
He doesn't like Israel. He's very far left, but is flummoxed that the Biden administration did nothing. The Democrats have a problem coming for them, and it's obvious. They're going to be superficially united in an effort to stop Donald Trump and to fight Donald Trump. But behind the scenes, there's festering. This reminds me of where the Republican Party was in 2012 after Romney's defeat. Remember, you had the audit, among other things, that had come out that the GOP elite had done, that actually the GOP elite, they needed to be more in favor of amnesty and in favor of illegal immigrants and on. And essentially, it was all of the elite policies that the elite wanted and the base of the GOP did not, that if only the Hicks and Rubes would be in favor of amnesty and abortion, we would win. And the base of the Republican Party turned into open warfare against the elite of the party, demanded accountability. And what's so interesting now is so many of the people responsible for that turn within the GOP with Mitt Romney and them are now on the Democratic side, anti-Trump guys. The Lincoln Project guys are all a bunch of people who couldn't get hired within the GOP in the age of Trump because they had advanced the elite's arguments that essentially we will tell the base what they want to hear, but we don't really mean it. I think the Democrats are headed to that point now. And superficially, they'll all be united against Trump, but behind the scenes, they'll be stabbing each other. And I think that the progressives will be very dominant because the progressives are more organized and better funded than the moderates. And they will begin to purge the moderates, which, Donald Trump is not a conservative. He's a populist. And I think Trump could broaden the Republican Party stand and welcome in moderate Democrats. I mean, he has, to a degree, begun welcoming in moderate Democrats over time. Look at a guy like J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance started out, he was a CNN commentator. He wrote his great book. He was perceived as being a centrist Democrat from the Rust Belt. He became a Republican, but a lot of his ideas, pro-union ideas, economic policy ideas, tend to be ideas of kind of the old-school populist Democrat. As progressives go further left, the base of the Democrats reject them. The progressives have the clout within the Democratic Party to take over. In their response to Donald Trump, they overcorrect, and it costs them future elections. We're seeing this globally, by the way. In Europe, in Asia, in South America, and in North America, across the world, progressives are in collapse. The left is receding. Turns out the people who believe borders mean nothing and citizenship means nothing are getting rejected by people within nation states who actually believe the nation matters. Turns out people who believe boys can magically become girls are being rejected. It turns out that the woke mind virus spreading globally is actually anathema to normal, everyday citizens. And this is something the GOP has to be mindful of. It's not that these people like Donald Trump. I know you like Donald Trump. I get it. You love Donald Trump, and you get mad at me whenever I criticize him, even though I can defend him, I can give him money, whatever. I'm not willing to be on the bandwagon. Therefore, I'm somehow Trump derangement syndrome. Just listen to what I'm saying and take it to heart. There are a lot of people out there who voted for Donald Trump who don't like him. And they voted for him because as much as they don't like him, they really hate the other side. That should be common sense. It's in the data. It comes up. So they're not really part of the Trump coalition except because of the left. And Trump can use this to his advantage because as long as Donald Trump is more sane than the left, these people who don't like him can still be converted and in the meantime kept within the fold because they see what's on the other side and they would rather have Trump than crazy. And that's something that the left doesn't appreciate or understand. They hate Donald Trump so much. I got a guy, I've always had a cordial relationship with him online. He follows me on Instagram, follows me on Twitter. He's just increasingly like, you're such a Trump lover, you're such a Trump apologist. Like, tell that to the people who listen to my show all the time who are mad at me for not being a Trump lover. And yesterday he was like, had the bullet been better aimed, it could have saved us from everything. He was like, you have lost your mind. You're openly advocating for the murder of the president-elect of the United States. You just broke it. And there are so many people out there who have descended into madness against Trump that normal everyday Americans who aren't worked up about the man look at him like, y'all are kind of crazy. I don't particularly care for him, but I'm going to vote for him to stop you guys from getting power. And that's something the GOP needs to understand. And as the Democrats begin to dive further into this madness and refuse at the elite level to hold people accountable for covering up Joe Biden's mental failings and keeping him in office when they shouldn't have, there's going to be a crack up of that party. We're in an age of political realignment. The Republican Party has largely aligned. The Democratic Party is still struggling in that realignment, in large part because the GOP is benefiting. We were told there was an inevitable rise of the Democratic Party because demography was destiny, and it turns out not to be the case. Turns out the GOP is doing quite well by actually treating people as people instead of identity politics. And that's pushed moderate, reasonable people out of the Democratic Party, ceding more ground to the progressives. There will be a reckoning in the Democratic Party side. But the funny thing from this vantage point right now is it looks like sanity is what's going to lose, and they're just going to double down on being crazy, which is going to help Donald Trump over the next 4 years.
Well connected and well respected. It's Eric Erickson live every weekday.
221 Cool Ray Carrier, WSB 24-hour traffic center. Really watching that volume build into downtown. You jam on the brake pedal from the 85-400 merge as you head down to I-20. Actually just watched the Notre Dame football team buses rolling on the connector southbound down toward Mercedes-Benz. Northbound seeing brake lights from Langford Parkway up into Midtown. And 285 westbound, the outer loop in Sandy Springs slowing between 400 and Roswell Road. Traffic brought to you by Whole Foods Market. Save on your favorite organics at Whole Foods Market. Get 2 for $5. Organic large Hass avocados with Prime through January 21st while supplies last. Shop in store or online. Terms apply. Alex Williams, 95.5 WSB.
On air,
online,
on the app,
where you get your news,
is where you'll win.
Download the WSB radio app now and maybe win $1,000.
Thank you, Jesus.
The WSB 5K a day bonus blitz.
5 words, 5 times a day, every weekday.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Just enter the word at WSBradio.com or on the WSB radio app.
Your next chance to win is coming up at 5.
The WSB 5K a day bonus blitz
on 95.5 WSB.
I'm here with Chris Hoffman, the founder of Hoffman Financial Group, to discuss one of the biggest blind spots that people face when saving for retirement, and it's a head-scratcher. Chris, how do so many people not know what they're invested in?
That's the biggest flaw that everybody runs into. They think they know what equities they have, they think they know what bonds they have, but they really don't know how those mutual funds or how those index funds are performing in conjunction with one another. So, I would liken this to a big pot of soup, and we're just throwing all the ingredients in the refrigerator in this thing. It's not very good. It's just a mishmash of stuff. And sometimes you like the way it tastes. Sometimes you don't. And when you don't know why. You don't know if you got too much chicken in there or too much vegetables in there or what's going on. And I ask every caller that comes in for an initial consultation, do you know how your portfolio is broken down? And they say, well, I've got, 20 or so options in my 401k, and I just picked 2 of them or 3 of them. I thought I needed some international. I thought I needed some U.S. equities. I thought I needed some bonds. And they're just guessing. So you have to absolutely know what you're invested in, and that's where we will run the 401k portfolio x-ray for you, because that'll break it down. If you're not proficient at investing and don't understand this world, we will walk you through it. Not knowing what you're invested in is a big hindrance to growing and protecting your money. We will run a portfolio x-ray for you and educate you on exactly what's in your portfolio.
Set up a time to get your complimentary portfolio x-ray today. Call the Hoffman Financial Group at 404-737-3858. That's 404-737-3858, or book online at unleashyourmoney.com. Investment advisory services offered through Brookstone Wealth Advisors, a registered investment advisor. Insurance and annuities offered through Hoffman Financial Group Incorporated, Georgia Insurance License number 163546.
Belinda Skelton here with Dr. Ashraf with the Atlanta Vision Institute, and I'm a proud recipient of the laser optics procedure because it literally changed my life. I went from wearing glasses and contacts and not being able to see leaves on trees clearly, being tired when I read books at night, tired when I worked on the computer for long hours at a time. And I know that you hear a lot of this, Dr. Ashraf.
Yes, Belinda, I hear all these accolades all the time from patients. It is truly a life-changing procedure. This will not give you x-ray vision. However, if you want to get rid of the hassle of glasses and contacts and want to improve the quality of your life, this is a great procedure for you.
Go to 2020atlanta.com to find out more information. Take the quiz. See if this procedure is a good option for you. That website again is 2020atlanta.com. Your medical insurance may cover it.
To understand what makes Diamonds Direct so different than other jewelry stores, you have to go back 60 years, when a diamond cutter became well known for his exceptional craftsmanship. His diamond cutting business flourished for decades. Then his sons got involved and started selling these exceptional diamonds to upscale jewelry stores here in America. After a few years, these wholesalers decided to change the game and started selling these precious diamonds direct to the public at the same prices they had sold to the jewelry stores. The no middleman concept became an instant success, and Diamonds Direct was born. Today, Diamonds Direct provides that extraordinary value to people all over America, leading the industry with the highest quality diamonds that still come straight from the best cutters, offered at the guaranteed best prices, period. Diamonds Direct, a truly revolutionary concept with a unique history, rooted in quality, committed to excellence, and always focused on value. Proud to call ATL home. Diamonds Direct, your love, our passion. All the news, weather, and traffic you need. 95.5 WSB.
Eric's daily show prep email. Text DATA to 33777 and you'll be in the know.
Welcome. It's Eric Erickson here. Let's go back to the phones. Open line Friday here, 877-973-7425. Kevin, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm excellent on this beautiful sunny day.
Excellent.
I have three simple questions. First
Okay.
is, when an incoming president comes on board, does he have a book or a glossary or index of executive orders that have been made? The second part of that would be, what is the oldest known executive order that is still in force? And the third would be, what will it take for Congress to take back some of the power that they have ceded to the president?
That is a great one. And that is, I'm trying to think. Okay, so let's do number one. Yes, his staff will compile all of the executive orders, particularly the ones that Joe Biden did, so that he can repeal them if he wants. In fact, Trump has told the Senate he has over 100 executive orders drafted to be signed on day one. And then I'm actually Googling on the second one. And that is one of the oldest executive orders still in force is Executive Order 9, issued January 17th, 1873 by President Ulysses S. Grant to curb abuses of power by individuals who concurrently were working for the state and national government. It received a lot of publicity being modified by Calvin Coolidge to help aid prohibition enforcement by allowing the same persons to be simultaneously state and federal enforcement officers for alcohol, tobacco, and firearms, and is still operational, though rarely ever used. That's intriguing. I learned something myself. The third is, the Supreme Court has been begging Congress to act. In fact, next week I got to moderate a discussion on the Loper-Bright decision that reins in federal agencies, and the entire purpose of that decision, essentially, from the Supreme Court is to say, Congress, you write the laws, not agencies. You got to start writing laws. And I think we're about to see Congress try to re-engage on that front. They've got to at this point. Now, let me tell you about Vision Computer, because if you're buying a computer, and Trump says he's going to enact tariffs next week, so prices are about to go up, you might want to call Vision at 404-COMPUTE right now and start thinking about your technology upgrades. 404-COMPUTE, they can build you a new computer, and they can have it mirror your old computer in that era. All the preferences, apps, and everything are rolled over to it, but it's brand new, so it's faster, it's got more memory, it's got a better GPU, it can handle AI. They can build this computer for you and save you some money. Call them at 404-COMPUTE or go to visioncomputers.com. Visioncomputers.com. Tell them I sent you. You're going to save even more money. If you want their tech support, you don't need a new computer, but you need someone to be your IT guy, Vision can be that for you. Just $179 a year. It's free if you buy your computer from Vision. Call them at 404-COMPUTE. Tell them I sent you. They literally can be your IT support for you or your whole company. 404-COMPUTE or visioncomputers.com. And by the way, everybody nationwide can take advantage of this. Visioncomputers.com.
Live from the Superior Plumbing Studios.
News,
weather,
traffic.
95.5 WSB.
Atlanta's News and Talk.
At 2:30, I'm Bill Caiaccio with our top local story. A suspect is shot and killed in an officer-involved shooting in Roswell. Police Chief James Conroy says one of their officers is injured.
He was struck twice in the chest, and his vest absorbed most of it, but he still did suffer some injuries.
That officer is expected to make a full recovery. This happened as detectives and the North Fulton SWAT team were deployed to a home in the 500 block of Ansley Drive to serve an arrest warrant. Police say the suspect had a violent criminal history. The GBI is now investigating. Because of dangerous cold temperatures predicted on Monday, President-elect Trump's inauguration will be moved indoors. Plans are underway to have Trump and Vice President-elect J.D. Vance sworn in inside the U.S. Capitol Rotunda. Discussions are ongoing about where to hold the inaugural parade and other celebrations. Metro Atlanta is about to go into the deep freeze.
Something I want you to know and prepare for next week is that between Sunday and Tuesday, we may have 48 consecutive hours with temperatures below freezing.
Meteorologist Christina Edwards says through Thursday, we could be through 70 to 80 hours with sub-freezing temperatures. The U.S. Supreme Court upholds a law banning TikTok in the U.S.
Missouri Republican Senator Josh Hawley voted in favor of the law and says the court made the right decision.
It can track your whereabouts. It can read your text messages. It can track your keystrokes. It has access to your phone records.
Connecticut Democratic Senator Richard Blumenthal says he hopes the app can still be used in the U.S.
China should not own it, but it should continue to exist in this country.
Christopher Cruz, CBS News, Washington.
It is now 2:32, and up next, live team coverage of traffic and weather.
Your roof has been working overtime lately. Heavy rain and severe storms have impacted our area again. So how did your roof hold up? Hey, it's Dave Baker, host of the Home Fix-It Show here. Water is your home's #1 enemy. Heavy rain and severe storms like we've had recently can expose roof leaks and lead to water damage. I recommend you schedule a free roof analysis with my roofer, Finley Roofing, the roof guys. If your roof is leaking or damaged, it's possible that you don't even see any signs yet, but you could see water inside. Look around. Check your attic, ceiling, drywall, and chimney area. Do you see dripping water, wet spots, or water streaks? If yes, think of Finley first. Finley Roofing is locally owned and operated. They always follow the golden rule to treat you right, and I trust them in my home. You can trust them too. Get peace of mind with no obligation and no charge. Schedule your free roof analysis at finleyroofing.com.
Roof.
Winning in the NFL comes down to the basics, blocking and tackling. In retirement, protection and income are the keys to success. Simply put, if you're nearing or in retirement, you can't afford a stock market crash. Hi, I'm Mitch Lyons. Having played on winning teams with the Steelers and Falcons, studying game film was a key to success. Now I'm a best-selling author and star in a new groundbreaking documentary film called The Retirement Deception. It unveils how the Wall Street machine has been deceiving us for decades and proves you don't need to risk your nest egg in the market to have the retirement you deserve. This film shows you exactly how to protect your retirement from stock market drops and produce more income than you thought possible. I want you to watch this film for free. Call today for your free copy of The Retirement Deception. I think you would agree 30 to 40 years of saving for retirement is at least worth a phone call to watch this film and see how you can improve your retirement. Call today to speak with an all-pro retirement specialist to get your free copy of The Retirement Deception. Call 888-471-3896. That's 888-471-3896. MitchLyonsWealth.com. Your best game plan to protect, grow, and win retirement.
Christina Edwards here. If your home is like mine, it is built on our famous Georgia red clay, which absorbs moisture and is very slow to dry out. It can cause a drainage issue in your crawl space, potentially growing mold and producing that musty smell. But call my friends at American Crawl Space Solutions. They will walk you through the issue and only suggest the repairs you need to solve the problem. Visit AmericanCrawlSpaceSolutions.com to schedule your free in-home consultation.
American Crawl Space Solutions. Foundations too.
At 2:34, Alex Williams is in the traffic center.
New crash we're looking for in DeKalb County, 285 southbound, the Inner Loop North Lake Parkway exit 36, already slow back to Peachtree Boulevard in the Doraville area. And we're watching the brake lights on the south side, 75 northbound. You're on and off the brake pedal from Locust Grove, Bill Gardner Parkway exit 212 as you head up to Jonesboro Road, exit 221 there in Henry County. Alex Williams, 95.5 WSB.
I'm WSB meteorologist Christina Edwards. Sunny skies today, high 56.
Rain moves in tomorrow. Rainfall totals could be up to 1 inch in metro Atlanta tomorrow. Right now it's 57 in Cumming, 60 in Conyers, 57 in Brookhaven. More news at 3 o'clock. Breaking news when it happens. I'm Bill Caiaccio, 95.5 WSB.
He's got the courage to tell you the truth, even when it isn't popular. You're listening to The Eric Erickson Show.
Greetings, welcome. It's Eric Erickson here. The phone number this Open Line Friday, 877-973-7425. Much more to discuss, but first I want to go to Mike. Mike, welcome to the Eric Erickson Show. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Hope you're having a nice day.
Yes, sir.
I wish that you would one time say something I disagree with.
Oh, I'm sure there'll come a time.
Well, except for I'm a little more of a Trump supporter than you are, but it's all financial on my side. But going back to your pet peeve of the left-hand drivers, I wish I used to work for Lufthansa, German Airlines, for 32 years. I was a teacher. So I've been to Germany. I couldn't tell you how many times, 300 times. And if everybody in the U.S. had to go to Europe to learn to drive or just to drive for 2 weeks, they would come back 100% better driver, or they'd come back in a body bag because you don't get in that left lane. I'll get out there and run 150 miles an hour, 225 kilometers. And you don't sit in the left lane just because you're out there doing 150 miles an hour, because there's going to be a Porsche, Mercedes, Lamborghini is going to blow your doors off because they'll be doing 200.
I wish we had an Autobahn in this country. I really wish there was an Autobahn. And for a time back in the 90s, after the Gingrich crew swept into office and they allowed states to set their own speed limits in states, and I think Montana dropped the speed limit altogether for a time. I think we should have an Autobahn. So there's a stretch of road near me, ladies and gentlemen. It's called I-16. I-16 is a desolate stretch of interstate that runs from Macon, Georgia, where I am. In fact, I can see the start of I-16 right outside my window. And it dead ends in Savannah, Georgia. There is nothing on I-16 except for the fine folks of Dublin, Georgia, and Metter. Otherwise, you got Macon, you got lots of speed traps in Dublin, Georgia, and then you have Savannah. In between, it's just wide open, mostly straight highway and flat. The closer you get to Savannah, the flatter it gets. I see no reason why there should be a speed limit on I-16. And they're always the nanny says, oh, but don't you remember the students from Georgia Southern who died? Yes, and the weather was bad, and it was foggy, and yes. But in regular weather, I mean, I do the upper end of the limits of speed in Georgia. By that, I mean, in Georgia, there's a law. I've mentioned it before. You can go up to 10 miles over the speed limit. They can't use radar on you. And if they're driving next to you, you blow past them. They know you're speeding. You can do it, but no radar. And so cops in Georgia pretty graceful, even on I-16, to just say, you know, you can go up to 10 miles over the speed limit. And I do. And I set my cruise control. I am always gobsmacked by the people who come blasting past me. I'm doing 80, and they got to be doing 100 miles an hour down I-16. Might as well turn it into the Autobahn. And too few cops on the road. I mean, you just might as well. We need a great Autobahn. You know, when George H.W. Bush was president of the United States, he favored a new interstate system. And essentially, it would be 3 new interstates, one for the north, one for the south, one for the middle of the country, going east-west, and then like 4 or 5 to go north-south. And it would basically be, it would only connect on to, if I remember his concept right, these new interstates would only connect to existing interstates and would have plazas for like gas and stuff. So you would get on it and you could only get off it onto other interstates. And the whole idea was you would get a lot of commercial traffic, 18-wheelers and stuff on these things and get them off the regular interstates you and I drive on normally. And basically they would have been with no speed limit. I was like, that would have been fantastic, but we never did it. He lost. Never did it. All right. I gotta move on to the main thing I was going to talk about this hour. And I mentioned a little bit in the last half hour. The Telegraph in Great Britain. It's one of the few newspapers I subscribe to. They have conducted a global poll. And they haven't just conducted a global poll, they've been looking at election results as well. Left-wing parties are more unpopular now than at any time since the end of the Cold War, according to the Telegraph. The analysis comes after a year of election triumphs for conservatives around the world, crowned by Donald Trump's election as United States president. Right-wing groups emerged as the worldwide winners after more than 1.5 billion people voted in more than 70 countries in 2024, the most on record in a single year. Leftist parties suffered a record low average vote share of just 45.4% in each democracy's latest election, according to the Telegraph. In Western Europe and the United States, left-wing parties secured just 42.3% of the vote, while the right won 55.7% of the vote, which represents the widest gap in votes since the 1990s. Meanwhile, the hard right scored a record high vote of 14.7%, after radical politicians performed well in elections in from France to Panama. Now, the larger issue here, as I mentioned in the last half hour, is the elite, the wealthy, the highly educated, the technocrats of government who came from elite academic institutions and decided they would go into government, not the private sector, in order to shape government. These people have lost the plot, and they tend to be on the left. Russ Vought is a friend of mine. Russ is going to be the director of the Office of Management and Budget. He had his confirmation hearing day before yesterday, on Wednesday. Russ was attacked by the Democrats because he supports a plan to convert a number of public servants into, I think it's Schedule F public servants, and those are people fireable by the president. Career civil servants are under the Civil Service Act not immediately fireable by the president. But one of the things that happens regularly in Washington, D.C., and is happening with Joe Biden right now, is political appointees, many of them, are allowed to convert into careerists at the end of a presidential administration if there is a comparable job opening. Liberals tend to do this more than conservatives. Democrats do it more than Republicans. So Democrats at the end of a presidential administration, like the Biden administration, will convert into the civil service, and they'll embed to obstruct the incoming president. They do it more often than Republicans do at the end of a Republican administration. And what Russ Vought and President Trump want to do is to convert those people into fireable positions so they can be fired by the president and gotten out of government. And they should do it, by the way, because we saw during the first term of Donald Trump's term in office, the deep state, the administrative state, the careerists, whatever you want to call it, what term you want to use, actively tried to obstruct him in his goals. There was a poll out the other day. The managerial class within the federal government, only 5% of them said that they would work for Donald Trump as opposed to working to stymie him. And this is happening around the world, where the elite, who tend to be more secular, tend to be less religious, to be more atheist, to be more progressive, they decide they know best for everybody. They decide they're smarter than everybody. And they decide they should call all the shots. And by the way, many of these people are idiots. Just because you went to Harvard doesn't mean you're smart. Yesterday, it is relevant, you have to know, is an older black gentleman on Instagram. We put up the clip where I said Kamala Harris is basically a blithering idiot. And this guy attacked me and said, you're only saying this because you're racist or sexist, or you just hate her because she's a Democrat. She has more degrees than you. She's done more in government than you. I had to reply to him that actually, as a matter of fact, I have more college degrees than Kamala Harris. And based on that standard, I guess I'm smarter than her. But you know and I know that a college degree doesn't actually confer on you some sort of special knowledge. There can certainly be a special knowledge you acquire by going to advanced school, like in law. Those of you who didn't go to law school don't understand the law necessarily in a way I do. If you're a chemical engineer, you certainly understand chemical engineering better than the rest of us. If you're an economist, you understand the economy better. But you don't necessarily get just general special insight by getting a college degree. It's not like the Scarecrow getting the diploma from the Wizard of Oz and suddenly he was a Mensa candidate. But the elite look on the people who didn't go to college as hicks and rubes. I got to tell you, you can find more common sense from your average non-college educated plumber than you can from a person with a women and gender studies degree. They've got a degree, but they're an idiot. And what we're finding is the more highly educated among us are the idiots who tend to believe boys can become girls and can compete in girls' sports, and the people who didn't get the college degree haven't had their mind polluted by insanity and understand that's not the case. And around the world, progressives are the idiots, highly educated idiots, who believe a lot of stupid things, believe a lot of offensive things, and they're starting to be rejected. One of the most offensive, idiotic things the left believes is that borders don't really matter. Nations don't really matter. More and more people on the left view themselves as citizens of the world. And, you know, the data, in fact, shows that if you're a progressive, you tend to have traveled to more countries. You're a citizen of the world. No, actually, you're not. You don't have a passport from the United Nations. You have a passport from a country. And most of us like our countries. And most of us believe that we should be taking care of our fellow citizens before we take care of others. And in Europe and in this country, there's been mass immigration on scales not seen before in history, where a lot of countries have decided we're just going to import a bunch of foreigners into our country. And guess what happens? It changes the culture of the country. Now, if it's done slowly and it's done with some level of conversion into what it means to be part of the country, it can work well. I love me a taco on Tuesday, Monday, or Friday. Doesn't matter the day of the week. Tacos have become as American as the hamburger or the hot dog. I actually like a taco better than a hot dog. But in some countries, a lot of Europe, there's mass importation of foreigners into the country who don't integrate into society. They live in enclaves of themselves for themselves. They have nothing in relation to it. That's one of the things that's always been unique about our country, that the right has always appreciated, is that people come to this country, they want to be Americans. They integrate into our society, they become Americans. And the left's like, we're a systemically racist country. You shouldn't integrate into our society. You just come here and keep your old ways and we'll accommodate you, which is insanity. And part of the reason the left around the world is losing is because they've decided the world matters and the nation state doesn't. And part of the reason the left is losing around the world is they've embraced a bunch of just crazy insanity on culture and gender and things like that. That's deeply offensive to people with common sense. And then the left tries to censor us and cancel you for saying just normal run-of-the-mill things. And it builds resentment. And it's been happening in nations from South America to Europe. And the left is beginning to collapse around the world. They decided they didn't have to appreciate where they came from. They could just change it. And there are a lot of people who, for very good reasons, are resistant to that change. And so the right is ascendant because the elite who lean left have failed to improve the lives of citizens of countries and instead decided to improve the lives of the immigrants coming into the country to replace the citizens. And those immigrants don't get a vote. The citizens do. And the backlash has come. And it was always predictable, and it's deserved. Now, one of the great groups that sticks up for citizens, for conservatives, for people on the right is Old Glory Bank. And you can not only get a checking account or a savings account with Old Glory Bank or a mortgage or a car loan or a CD or a line of credit, you can actually own a part of Old Glory Bank. Old Glory Bank serves customers in all 50 states. You can support the bank that supports Main Street. You can open an account in oldglorybank.com. Takes just a few minutes to get, and you can become an owner. You can now have the opportunity to invest in Old Glory Bank. You can put your money where your values are, purchase freely tradable stock at Old Glory Holding Company. To consider ownership, you go to own.oldglorybank.com. Owning stock has risks. It's not FDIC insured. Terms and conditions apply, but here's the thing. Old Glory Bank is trying to capitalize by bypassing Wall Street, going right to Main Street, so it doesn't have to worry about woke institutions taking over the bank and forcing them to change their policies, because their policies are pro-freedom, pro-country, pro-individual, pro-gun owner, pro-First Amendment, and they know that there are a lot of leftists who are taking over banks and doing bank cancellations by pushing progressive values through banks. So Old Glory Bank is trying to grow and avoid that by going straight to Main Street for a stock option, stock purchase. All you have to do, if you want to consider ownership, is go to own.oldglorybank.com. I've done it. I've invested in the bank. Own.oldglorybank.com. Again, owning stock has risks. It's not FDIC insured. Terms and conditions apply. It's own.oldglorybank.com.
He's got the courage to tell you the actual truth, even when it isn't popular.
It's the Eric Erickson Show.
252 Coolray Carrier, WSP 24-hour traffic center. Been dealing with a left lane crash in DeKalb. 285 southbound, the Interloop North Lake Parkway, exit number 36. You're on the brake lights. Back to or just before Peachtree Boulevard, exit 31 there in Doraville. If you're traveling 285 west and southbound, volume continues to fill in from Ashford Dunwoody as you make your way past I-75 in Cobb County, and the roadwork cleared in DeKalb. 20 eastbound collector distributor ramp between 285 and Wesley Chapel. Alex Williams, 95.5 WSB.
When the weather is at its worst,
It'll be just the beginning of the weather we're going to get.
we're at our best.
Tracking a blast of very cold air.
Check in often for updates on how it will affect you and your commute.
Crash now shutting down Holcomb Bridge Road entirely.
Tune in often for the latest.
Temperatures down into the teens to low 20s.
95.5 WSB, your severe weather station.
Maximize every space in your home and get organized with Artisan Custom Closets. From master closets to pantries, mudrooms, and garages, Artisan will collaborate with you to design an affordable and luxurious space tailored to your needs. Visit artisancustomclosets.com.
Imagine finding your dream home and moving in right away. No waiting to sell your old place first. Sounds perfect, right? That's exactly what Orchard's Move First, Sell Later program lets you do. Buy your new home now and sell the old one later. Hey, it's Eric Von Hessler. Here's how it works. Orchard gives you cash so you can buy and move into your new home first on your timeline. No waiting, no showings, no double moves. Then the Orchard experts take it from there. They handle repairs on your old home and make price-boosting upgrades at no upfront cost. Once they're done, a local Orchard agent lists and sells your home for top dollar. Orchard's Move First program gives you the freedom to buy and move into your new home first and sell your old home later. Buy before you sell and get top dollar for your home with Orchard. Ready to find out how much your home is worth? Visit Orchard.com to get your free home valuation. That's Orchard.com.
I'm John Morgan of Morgan & Morgan. Why should you hire the largest injury firm in the world for your injury case? Let me count the ways. Your case will be handled by your lawyer, a paralegal, and a case manager who's always in the office for you when your lawyer's in court. There's also a 24-hour hotline if you ever have a question or a problem. We've collected over $20 billion and won a lot. Injured? The choice is easy. Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm. Visit forthepeople.com for an office near you.
First Liberty Building and Loan. They say yes to small business financing when big banks say no. It's Eric Erickson. Make a 10-minute call to First Liberty Building and Loan, and you will know if you're a fit for their program. Go to firstlibertyga.com. That's firstlibertyga.com.
WSB Atlanta, WSB BFM, and HD1 Doraville. 95.5 WSB, Atlanta's News and Talk.
Serving my country required sacrifice. Sacrifice that changed my life forever. I remember the day I came home. Because of my injuries, this house wasn't right for me anymore. I remember the narrow doorways, the small bathrooms, the shelves out of reach when in my wheelchair. Every day was full of obstacles. I felt trapped. I remember a better day, the day my family received a specially adapted custom home from Homes for Our Troops. That day changed everything. Now we have a safe and accessible home to enjoy the freedom I fought for. This place, our home, is exactly what we needed to rebuild our lives.
Homes for Our Troops builds and donates specially adapted custom homes nationwide for severely injured post 9/11 veterans and enables them to rebuild their lives. Join our mission at hfotusa.org.
Your non-stop news source, 95.5 WSB, Atlanta's News and Talk.
Get the podcast, live stream, email, and social media links by texting Eric to 33777 now.
Before I get out of here, I need to say this. I want you to assess for yourself the political press's reaction to Joe Biden and Kamala Harris declaring the Equal Rights Amendment part of the Constitution. Because, first, the president has no power to do that, and second, it is beyond dispute, even with the Biden Justice Department, that the Equal Rights Amendment was not ratified and is not part of the Constitution, and the National Archivist says it's not. But Joy Reid at MSNBC, People like Lawrence Tribe, the famous legal scholar, and progressives are declaring that suddenly the ERA is part of the Constitution. It's wild that Joe Biden waited until 3 days before he's gone to do this. He even pardoned Hunter Biden before he did it. And now they're treating it as if it is so. Will credible news outlets forcefully denounce and push back on this? Because if Donald Trump did something like this, they would. So I want you to pay attention. I want you to observe the political press in America. Are they going to treat this as so? Are they going to ignore it? Or are they going to roundly condemn Joe Biden on his way out the door, provoking a constitutional crisis? Because it looks like a constitutional crisis to me when the sitting president of the United States declares something as part of the Constitution and uses his partisans in the press to amplify him, deluding people about the Constitution. Will the American Press Corps hold him accountable for this? Will the American Press Corps tell people this is not so? Or will the American Press Corps do some say and others say, I guess we're going to have to wait for the GOP to sue so we can tell you they hate women? That'll give you the measure of the American Press Corps. And so and I know they're going to not hold Joe Biden accountable and wait for the GOP to do something and then attack the GOP. That's what's going to happen.
WSB consumer expert Clark Howard.
I fly so much more than most people do. Crazy amount. About 30